This is S4 with your host, Eric Cooper.
Greetings, folks, and welcome to S4, where we talk about the real issues involving paranormal and current events, coming to you live from the S4 headquarters in the heart of the Cascade Mountains of Washington State. We also cover topics such as disaster and terrorist response and preparation and veterans issues as appropriate. So tonight we have Kelly Milner Halls. Milner Halls with us tonight. She is a children's book author, and writes all things paranormal, explains paranormal to kids in a child's way. I think it's awesome. It's very necessary. And she herself is also a paranormal researcher in all aspects of the paranormal, just like what we do here on S4. So it's always great to have. Did you ever find it, Kelly, where someone says paranormal, they automatically think ghosts and hauntings?
Yes, all the time.
Doesn't that drive you nuts?
They don't. It does, because they don't understand it expands a lot further than just ghosts, although ghosts are super interesting.
Right. I mean, Casper's not the only thing. There's also, Littlefoot, and yeah.
Well, yeah. Bigfoot, right?
All the critters.
Or are you talking Littlefoot?
Yeah.
I'm talking Littlefoot, not Bigfoot.
Isn't he a dinosaur? Land before time?
No, was it Littlefoot or Smallfoot?
Smallfoot.
Yeah, Smallfoot. That's what I'm thinking of. Okay. So, for our listeners...
Littlefoot's a dinosaur.
Yeah, I know. I know.
He's coming this month.
Yeah, right. Yeah. They're trying to create dinosaurs.
Exactly.
They're trying to create dinosaurs. Like we need any more for 2020. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, man.
So, for our listeners that haven't gotten into the competition, every week we do a different creature versus creature fight. This week it was
Black-eyed kids versus gray aliens.
And I think a lot of people are confused because black-eyed kids are not alien in nature. Nobody really knows what they are. Some people think they're demonic. I don't think so. But I think they're a different kind of entity that we haven't really dealt with. The ones that have actually opened the door don't live to really tell about it. So we don't know if anyone survives when they've opened the door. But what do you think, Kelly? Who do you think would win? A gray alien or a black-eyed kid?
I'm thinking the gray alien would win. Because they have the ability to erase your memory, to absolutely erase the fact that they've ever had an encounter in the first place. Right. So if they can go in and erase the black-eyed kid's whole recollection of the encounter, I think that's a win.
Well, we were just discussing this before the show that so many people, it seems we need to do it. We're going to do a show on black-eyed kids here pretty soon. I've got to find a good guest for it. But it seems a lot of people are confused. They think black-eyed kids are actually gray hybrids, and they're not. Gray hybrids are gray hybrids. Black-eyed kids are black-eyed kids. They're two different things. But it seems a lot of people are confused and seem to think, and to me, even a hybrid is going to be weaker than the actual race. So even if it was a hybrid, I would still think the gray would win. Anyway.
Yeah, the gray could still kick his little butt.
Right? So for third hour, we'll be going over all of your answers. And then we'll introduce tomorrow's creature versus creature.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to be a fun one.
It is a fun one. Most definitely.
So, okay, let's...
Hold on.
What?
We got to talk about the chat room. New chat room.
Oh, yeah.
We got a new chat room, guys.
So some of you are in the Spreaker chat. Jay, Ron, and Tim, welcome. And then we have a new chat room that's actually embedded in the S4 website. Izzy was busy all week, last week, creating it. And so we have 2 chat rooms now. One in the Spreaker platform, the studio, and the other one is in our website.
Yes.
So you can...
Yeah, and the one in the website is pretty cool because you can also add photos and GIFs and all of that fun stuff.
Emoticons, everything. And on that one, in the top right-hand corner on a computer, you just click to register, and it just asks you for an email and password. It registers you on the site, and that gives you your full name. Otherwise, it just runs you as a guest.
Yeah, but you can even come in as a guest. That's totally cool.
I like that one too, because you can jump in there even when the show is not going, ask your questions and whatnot for the next week's show.
Absolutely. That one's a 24/7 chat.
Or just carry on a conversation. It don't matter.
Like, we got Dennis already in there. That's awesome. Hi, buddy.
Okay, so Kelly.
Yes.
Why kids' books? What made you want to write kids' books on paranormal topics?
Well, I studied journalism in college, thought I was going to be an investigative reporter. Decided that if a grown-up does something bad, the grown-up's kids get the heat for it. So I didn't write for adults for a while. For a while, I raised my daughters, and then I started to realize my daughters need books to read, and I knew that was my calling. My place was to take some sophisticated information and sort of dilute it for kids, help them to understand all of the things they have questions about in a respectful way. A lot of children's books insult kids, treat them as if they're stupid. When they're not stupid, they're just uninformed. And so my goal was to write things that I was curious about as a kid but could never find books for because I'm an old dog. I'm 62. And when I was a kid, there were Abraham Lincoln books and fluff. That was pretty much it.
Right.
And so I decided to write books for kids. I wrote about dinosaurs. I wrote about mummies. I wrote about natural history things. And then I started realizing the kids were asking lots and lots of questions, and I wanted to give them answers. So I thought, I'm going to prove Bigfoot is fake. That was my goal. And I started researching Bigfoot and Sasquatch and all of the worldwide bipedal giant apes. And I realized that it might be real. And it blew my mind. Because if you do a lot of research, then you go past this, forget it, Bigfoot's nonsense, it's just a hoax.
Right.
You start to see this evidence and that evidence and other evidence, and I said, holy cow, Bigfoot might be real, and I'm living in the middle of Bigfoot country because I live in Washington State. And then I started thinking, well, if that might be real, what else have they lied to us about? So I thought, Area 51. And I started doing research on Area 51, and dang if it wasn't the same thing. So much evidence that something did happen when they've been telling the kids forever that it didn't happen. So my goal was to go in and write books that would inform them without trying to frighten them. Because the world's scary enough. They don't need a lot of scary hyping from me. What they need is the best evidence I can find. And that's what I've done.
Rock on.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
then your books are more of a documentary style?
Yeah, they're nonfiction. They're straight nonfiction journalistic information.
Okay.
Because
cool.
I'm not a fiction writer. I love fiction. I read fiction, but nonfiction was always my calling because when I was a kid, I asked a zillion questions. I made every adult I ever met insane because I had so many questions, and so my goal is to kind of answer the questions for the kids before they even ask them.
Nice.
Yeah.
So aside from investigative journalism, have you had any paranormal experiences of your own?
Well, I've had quite a few because, I wrote a book called Ghostly Evidence. And my goal, again, was to differentiate between fictional movies, which are fantastic, and we all love being scared, and the things that really do happen. And I understand that I haven't experienced everything that's ever happened, but for 4 years, when I would visit a school in the daytime. At night, I would go paranormal hunting with the ghost hunters in that community. And it would be the local paranormal teams, but I would go and I would see. The only way to write a book about ghosts, you can't prove they're real, you can't prove they're not real. All you can do is go along with the experts and report on what you found. And it was just remarkable. So many things happened. So you said I'm a paranormal expert. I'm not. I'm a paranormal interested. And I'm smart enough to go to the experts to get the information I need. So I'm a journalist. But I definitely, tagged along on a whole lot of great things. My favorite being one in San Diego, California.
Ooh, what happened in San Diego?
Yeah, what happened in San Diego?
Well, I went to the haunted house. I showed up at about 9:30 at night, stayed until 2 o'clock in the morning. And the ghost hunter said there were 30 ghosts living in this house. And I said, okay, well, let's see. So most of the night, it's maybe it's paranormal, maybe it's not. I'm not blown away. And then we go up to George's office. Now, George died in the house in the 1940s. Nobody murdered him. He just died of being an old guy. And all night they've been asking questions, and I haven't been able to really decipher the answers they've gotten on their EVPs. But we go up to George's office, and we sit down in the dark on this braided rug. And they say, George, is there anything you need? And we were all female at that time. It wasn't no boys allowed. It was just a weird coincidence. All the people investigating were female. And I'm thinking, this is going to be nothing. There'll be no answer. But a deep male voice answered, send them home. Yes? And I said, ooh, baby, I heard that. And it was just amazing. Now, I wasn't terrified. I was fascinated. Mm-hmm. And then we went down to the kitchen where they said the little kid ghosts were. And when I die, I'm going to live in the kitchen, too, because that's where the cookies are. And I like cookies. But we went down in the kitchen, and we set out some toys. And they had one of my friends that came with me, they had her read a picture book, and it was Elmo's Circus. And she read the picture book, and then the paranormal expert, the woman that was leading the tour, said, did you see the pretty pictures? And a little kid's voice answered, I seen them. And that blew me away, because I didn't expect it. Not at all. And I have to admit, I can't explain that. Now, the man's voice, maybe it was a police radio or a radio station. Maybe it was interference that got picked up on the tape recorder. But the little kid, I don't think so. It was amazing.
Not when it answers appropriately.
And bad grammar and little kid voice. And it was just mind-blowing. And I thought, well, there you go. Somebody who went in relatively neutral and left thinking, yep, there's something to this.
And that's what gets so frustrating is, there's a split in the paranormal field. You got the one side that says, well, kids can't be, there's no such thing as child ghosts because children just go to heaven. Children can't be spirits. But
well, that's silly.
Absolutely. So we were on a ghost tour in Canada. I guess it's been 2 years now. And we had what's called a proximity meter. So it's kind of like an EMF, but it makes really bright lights and it makes lullaby noises. It's actually kind of geared for kids. And so the particular museum building we were in was known to have a woman spirit and 2 kids. They were her kids, and she put them to bed at 10 o'clock every night. The spirit did, and you could almost, not literally, but you could almost see the kid playing with the proximity meter because it kept on just going off every 10 seconds. Like you could almost see his hand, touching this proximity meter because it wouldn't stop. And when it was this kid's bedtime, no more.
But see, isn't that's so childlike? It's something that a kid would do. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing. Even if a kid goes straight to heaven, let's say they do, that doesn't mean they can't linger back. It doesn't mean they can't. I mean, if your soul is free from a physical body, you have pretty much carte blanche.
Right.
On whatever you want to do and wherever you want to go. There are no limitations. They can go to Mars if they want. So if they wanted to come back to Earth and wander around on a spot that was, important to them, I don't see why not. Even if they died peacefully and went straight to heaven, hanging out with Jesus and whatever else. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean they can't come back and visit.
So what's the interest? I mean, so how long have you been writing the kids' books?
I've been writing for kids. I started with magazines and newspaper articles, and I did that for about 15 years, about 1,500 articles. You have to do quite a few to make a living. And then I moved over to books. And so I've been doing nonfiction for young readers for about 26, 27 years now.
And what is, so what's the interest? I mean, do you have a lot of paranormal kid books being sold?
Oh, yeah, they always sell very well. Sometimes the book reviews are not as favorable as I'd like because I'm not trying to terrify children.
Right.
And they want it to be a spooky book, and that wasn't my goal. My goal is to be an informational book. But I don't write for the reviewers. I write for the kids.
Oh, absolutely.
And the kids love them, and they like the fact that I give them information for and against, and that they can make up their own minds. My goal is to help them be critical thinkers because there's lots of valid evidence for all of these things, and we know that because this is what we all do. There's also a lot of nonsense. And if we can teach kids to eliminate the nonsense and focus on what's real, then we're closer to digging into the reality of the whole thing. They're the next generation. They're the ones that are going to come up with the technology to actually prove it at some point. And of course, we'll be able to prove these things someday. Mm-hmm. But if we don't start with helping them be good thinkers, then we're never going to get any further than we are.
So, do you, and we definitely need more critical thinkers in the world today. That's
absolutely.
That's apparent.
That's for sure.
By what's going on.
It's so
today.
funny though, because people think if you're a critical thinker, you can't be interested in these things, and that's just again ridiculous. Because if you're a critical thinker, you should want to know whether or not any of this is possible.
What age group of children are these more geared towards?
Mostly 9 to 12, but at 9 to 12-year-olds, you write exactly the same way you write for adults in the newspaper. Mm-hmm. The only thing that I might do differently is I might define a word as I go, so they don't have to look in the glossary. I have a glossary, too, because educators want you to, but that's the only difference. You don't have to write down to children. You just have to define a new term that you're introducing. And so they're very easy to read. They're easy for adults to read. I heard that the guys that win Jeopardy most of the time, they read children's books on nonfiction issues because it's the quickest way to get an encapsulated vision of the topic. And I think that's true of my books because they're not stupid books. They're smart books for young readers. Because kids are not dumb; they're just learning.
So, do you ever catch any flack from the skeptics?
Of course, but you know what? If you live your life worrying about what the skeptic's going to say, you're going to live your life doing nothing. I wrote a book called Wild Dogs, believe it or not, and I had creationists angry with me because I talked about evolution.
Are you serious?
Yeah, they said it's a great book for homeschoolers, but you're going to want to put glue a piece of paper over the part you did on evolution. This is what we suggest you write in it instead.
Oh,
and it's, no matter what you do, there's going to be people that tell you shouldn't have done it. And all you can do is your very best job and say, you know what, to each their own. If that's what you believe, go with God.
Don't get the book then.
Don't read it.
That's surprising to me because out of a wild dog book, I'd expect more from the alien book or the Bigfoot book.
Well, I brought dowsing rods to a school visit that I did once, and the kids loved them. And I was explaining what the theories were on dowsing rods. And are you still there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah, because my computer flashed and I was worried it was giving us grief again. It must be the ghost. But I brought dowsing rods to school, and I showed them what they were, and then I suggested, what else could it be besides a ghost answering? Could it be electricity from our bodies, our currents running through it? Could it be this? Could it be that? And I didn't say it wasn't real. I said, we probably should do a series of experiments to make a determination. Wear rubber gloves when you use them, so that your electric current can't go through that copper wiring. So it was a really interesting discussion. And then a minister of the small town where I presented told me I had done serious damage to the entire town. And I thought, I had no idea I had so much power.
All right.
Kelly.
Those are the ones that need critical thinking the most, I think, sometimes.
Exactly. But we all need it, really. No matter what side of the political spectrum you're on, no matter what side of the religious spectrum you're on, critical thinking is just a smart way to do business when you're living a life for all of us.
And I agree. I just hear things like that, and I have to shake my head. It's like, really?
Yeah.
What happened to a free country?
Well, who says ghosts are negative? I know the Bible says ghosts are negative. In some places it does, in other places it doesn't. My mom comes to me in dreams. She's been gone 20 years. She comes to me in dreams and we talk, and I see nothing negative about having a conversation with my departed mother. And I don't see much negative in a lot of ghostly encounters. I think it's just super cool, the idea that there's a veil, but we're not really apart from the people that we love.
Mm-hmm. So you have kids yourself, correct?
2 grown girls.
And so growing up with a mom for a paranormal, for a kids writer, I'm sure they were open-minded.
Oh yeah.
So did you? I'm trying to explain how to phrase this, because so my kids are 8 and 9, and they could probably tell you more about Bigfoot and more about aliens. And I mean, even Anthony, when he was in kindergarten, he got the Google Award for one, and it was actually preschool. His preschool teacher said he could tell you anything there was to know about ghosts. And I probably beamed him in pride, because to me that's a good thing. I think I guess I feel bad for kids who have closed-minded parents, because they miss so much. They do. They honestly do.
And the other thing is if you have a kid who's super interested in ghosts or Bigfoot or aliens or whatever, too many adults are dismissive of that interest.
Mm-hmm.
But do you know how many Bigfoot fans went on to be primatologists? And how many UFO fans went on to be, space engineers? I mean, it's a doorway to a lot of productive thinking. And there's nothing about any of these topics that is truly dangerous. It's far more dangerous to forbid a topic.
Mm-hmm.
Because anybody who's ever been a kid knows the first thing you're going to do when someone says don't is, oh yeah, watch me.
Right.
I mean, my dad told me not to climb the rotten tree across the street. And what's the first thing I did when he went to work? I climbed the rotten tree. Because he made such a big deal of it. It got this romantic feel to it. And of course he was right. The branch I climbed broke off instantly. I hit the ground, thought I was going to die. My friend said, I'm going to go get your dad. I said, no, don't tell him. If you forbid something, it's suddenly, ooh, I want that forbidden item. So it's way better to actually investigate with your kids. Then you have some say in how they respond to the evidence that they discover. Then you can say, look, that sounds cool, but let's check the source. Is it a reliable source, or is it Crazy Uncle Bob? Because we love Crazy Uncle Bob, but we listen to his stories with a grain of salt. So that's a better way to take your kids on. Walk through the path with them. And then you both learn.
And I would agree with that. So I think this is a question I had for later on, but do you think there should be an age limit when it comes to paranormal investigation?
No, because I think kids self-censor. I think if a kid's not ready, like when 9/11 happened, my 16-year-old daughter was all about watching every minute of the coverage. My 8-year-old daughter had no interest. And it wasn't that she wasn't interested in what was going on. She wasn't ready. So she didn't watch the TV. It was too intense.
Right.
And she knew. Kids tend to self-censor. Just like, I mean, I wouldn't encourage showing kids sexy books, but if you pick up a book and it happens to have a little sexy content, every kid that's not ready to even think about that will close the book. Ew, yeah, gross. That's icky. You know?
Right.
And if they don't, they're going to go to mom and say, I don't understand this. And mom's going to say, we'll talk about this in a year or two.
Right.
You know, they're going to go to somebody they trust and ask them. So kids do self-censor. I don't see that there should necessarily be an age limit. I think it should be approached more gently with younger kids so that you don't just terrify them so they don't lay in their beds at night without any sleep. You know, it's like when I wrote the alien investigation book, my editor came back to me and said, you have nothing about abductions. And I didn't. But the reason I didn't was twofold. One, I'm an old school journalist, and I want 3 people who can say the thing happened before I consider it a reliable source. And most abductions, it's one at the top 2 people that say that they were there when it happened. The other thing is, I'm not going to tell a kid that a gray can come into their room and mom and dad don't hear.
Right.
Take them up, do experiments, erase their memories, put them back in bed, and mom and dad don't hear. I'm not telling a kid that. Not if I'm not absolutely sure it happened. Now, do I think it happens? I think it probably does. Because I've read enough witnesses to see that it's pretty credible. But I'm not sure that's a concept to introduce to a child.
Okay.
Just because it's a little intense.
That's a little traumatizing.
But if they ask me about it, if they ask me, I would give them my gentle version of the truth.
Right. Okay. So what seems to be the most popular? Which one do they go after the most? Do they go after Bigfoot? Do they go after aliens? Do they go after ghosts? I
think Bigfoot's the most popular.
Really?
All over the country. You think it's just Pacific Northwestern, but it's not. All over the country. And you know, almost every state. I mean, I've even heard there's some sightings in Hawaii. I'm a little doubtful about that because there were no land bridges to Hawaii. But every state in the nation has their own Bigfoot traditions. And so these kids, I mean, they know somebody who's seen Bigfoot. And it's not just crazy Uncle Bob. Again, that crazy Uncle Bob. Well, you know, Uncle Bob sees lots of things. But it's, you know, I interviewed a truck driver who saw a Bigfoot. He went to a Bigfoot adventure in Georgia. Mm-hmm. And he didn't believe in Bigfoot. He went to play with the toys. He wanted to play with the night vision goggles and all the stuff that they had. So he didn't expect to see Bigfoot, but he couldn't sleep. I mean, the ground was rocky and it was hard to sleep, and so he went back to his truck to sleep. And on his way back to the truck, he heard a noise behind him, and he sort of assumed it was a bear. Mm-hmm. So he had a canteen full of grape Gatorade, and he dropped the canteen behind him, thinking the bear is going to stay for that and leave him alone. Good thinking. So he walkie-talkied the guys back at the campsite and said, hey, listen, when you come back to the trucks, grab my canteen. I dropped it. So when they came back, they radioed him and said, hey, listen, we got your canteen. Do you want the turtle shell? And he said, turtle shell? And he said, yeah, there's a turtle shell sitting on top of your canteen. Do you want that too? And so he said, well, listen, do me a favor. Shake it. Is it still full? And they shook it, and they said, no, there's not a drop in this thing. Well, he said, that's curious. I wonder what drank my Gatorade. Next night, he can't sleep again. But this time he walks back to his truck with the night vision goggles. And he's walking around looking at how weird the world looks in night vision goggles. And all of a sudden he turns one way, and there he is face to face with a Bigfoot. I mean, he is maybe 6 feet between the two of them. And he said that thing was big, and it was dark, and I was so scared that I wet my pants. Now, how many big, tough truck drivers do you know that would admit to a woman they wet their pants in fear?
Not too many.
He says. And then the thing is they just stared each other down. Neither one of them knew what to do, because neither one of them really wanted to rumble. And he said all of a sudden the Bigfoot puffed up, got really big, and then took off. And he said that thing was so fast, it was gone in a flash. And he said it shook me to the core because I didn't expect to see one. And yet there it is. Now, those are the stories that you come over and over and over again. Stories where people really weren't looking for Bigfoot, and yet there it was. So while I haven't seen one yet, I've been Bigfoot hunting about 4 times. I haven't seen one yet. But every time I drive in a forested area, you can bet I got my eyes open. Because I believe it's out there. Now, that's an opinion, not a fact. Mm-hmm. But after talking to all these people, I think it's real, and it's a huge popular topic with young readers. Okay. A lot of them have dads that are outdoors guys. They've got their own stories.
So I had this fleeting thought. So in the South, it's called swamp ape. That's the southern version of the Bigfoot we have here in the Pacific Northwest.
Well, they actually have several. They have skunk ape, and they have the folk monster. Skunk ape in Florida, folk monster in Louisiana, or Arkansas.
And then the Bigfoot they've got in North Carolina, Kentucky, Tennessee is very equivalent to what we've got here in the Pacific Northwest.
Then they have Momo.
And you're absolutely right. I can't recall any kind, and I'm sure they've got their equivalent, but I've never heard of anything in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Have you?
No, but I have a guest question here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, how do you feel about states that have named a Bigfoot a protected species without evidence?
Well, I don't think you can say it's without evidence. I mean, ask Jeffrey Meldrum if there's evidence. I've interviewed Dr. Meldrum a number of times, and he's a very serious scientist. Mm-hmm. And you talk to him for 15 minutes, and you're going to be a believer, because he's talking about all the physical evidence. So I'm not sure that you can say they don't have evidence. I think there's every possibility that this is an unknown species, just like a million other unknown species that the Highland gorilla was an unknown cryptid until they proved it was real. The African unicorn turned out to be the okapi. I mean, all of these things were legends, myths, until they weren't. Mm-hmm. And I'm convinced that Bigfoot is an animal, is a species, that the Yeti is just its Chinese Nepal counterpart. That they are like the Arctic wolf and the Mexican wolf. They have slight variances based on their geography and their climate, but that they are probably similar animals. So maybe they don't have any hard physical evidence in their particular town. That may be because they haven't been looking. I mean, in paleontology, they used to look for dinosaur bones using dynamite because they were in a rush to see who could get the most fossils first. Turns out that dynamite was blowing away very delicate impressions of dinosaur skin and dinosaur feathers, things that we thought didn't exist until we knew they did. And I think that's true for things like Sasquatch as well.
So, what do you think Bigfoot is? Do you think Bigfoot's an animal, or do you think he's interdimensional? Do you think he's a spiritual creature? What's your opinion, based on the research you've done?
I've heard other people say he's interdimensional. I've heard people say, my San Diego contact with the paranormal, she says that he gets away because he has portals that he can jump through. And the physics says that portals are possible. I don't have enough evidence to be sure. I have read the information about it. I don't necessarily take that belief. I think it's an animal, but I do think that there is an absolute possibility that it is a hominid, which is something between ape and human, like the prehistoric men that we think went extinct, but what if they didn't? What if we have a population that didn't go extinct, that still exists and tries very hard to stay undetected? If they're intelligent, then that would be possible. I lean towards thinking it's an animal, but I would be just as convinced that if it was a hominid, I think either one is a strong possibility.
Have you ever looked at Native American lore?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
There are 140 different Native American names for Bigfoot in North America alone. And all those started before the internet, right?
Exactly. Have you ever heard of a gifting site? And have you ever written about gifting sites for Bigfoot in your books?
I haven't. I know about gifting, and I know that it's very effective in building a relationship with the Bigfoot communities. And most of the people that I know that have built those kind of relationships, they don't talk about it very much because they don't want anybody endangering their particular populations. Mm-hmm. But I do know that over and over again, they set things out for the Bigfoot. Like I know someone who was setting out apples and all the traditional things, but just for kicks, they set out a rubber duck. Mm-hmm. Just to see, and the community took it and then brought it back a little bit later and then took it again. So I think that they're curious about us the same way we're curious about them. And there was a guy named Craig Nelson who did analysis of the vocalizations that they collected up in the high Sierras, and he says that Bigfoot has its own language, not just sounds, but language, mm-hmm. like French or Spanish or English. And the reason he thinks this is true is because before he became a Bigfoot enthusiast, and this came about in a strange way, he was a cryptolinguist, which means in the military he was the guy that listened to radio waves to see if there was a top secret message hidden in the radio waves. Like, let's say the Russians are going to steal all the American Twinkies. There might be chatter in it in these messages, but it would be coded, and it was his job to catch the codes. So one day his son came to him and said, "Hey, Dad, I'm doing a report on Bigfoot. I want you to listen to these sounds." So he played him the Sierra sounds, and he said, "Play it again." Okay, play it again. Okay, play it again. And finally his kid said, "Dad, I got other things to do." And he said, "Okay, I'll see you in a while." And so he kept listening. So he took the recordings. He found Moorhead, the guy that recorded them, and he got the original, closest to the original tapes. And he sent them around to all his cryptolinguist friends. And he said, "Analyze this for me." And they decided, if you slow it down, that they speak at a quicker speed than we do. But if you slow it down, that they are not just making sounds, they are forming words and sentences. And he broke it down into phonetics, and he wrote it out. And he believes they have their own language. Now, this is not a crazy guy. He didn't look for Bigfoot. He stumbled on this because his kid brought it to him. Mm-hmm. But he's now a believer. He now says, something intelligent is out there, and we should protect it. That circles back to your other question. Should we protect it? Yes. If it's not real, we're not hurting anything. But if it is real, we might be saving an intelligent species from a really difficult existence.
So Izzy in the chat room would like to know, what is your theory for why screens go blank white when Bigfoot is present and then back to normal?
I've never had that experience, and I've never talked to somebody who does. There are people, I have talked to people that say that they have very strong telepathic abilities, that they can paralyze someone inside a tent and release them when they're ready. I've heard that. I don't have strong evidence for it, but I've heard more than one credible source say that's true. If they have that kind of psychic abilities, I could see that they could make a screen go white, the same way the ghosts drain the power out of cameras.
And I've actually heard of that too, along with UFO, both with UFO encounters as well as with Bigfoot encounters. That batteries do drain. They can drain, not always.
Yeah,
but
because we don't know about his abilities, so we just more reason to protect him and study.
Oh, absolutely. So, why do you think? And this is off topic for a second, but why do you think is the secrecy? So, why would the government hide Bigfoot and other cryptids?
I don't know that the government is hiding Bigfoot. I think the government dismisses Bigfoot. I think they hide aliens because they don't want anybody to think there's a possible entity that's more powerful than the government. And if there are alien visitors, and I suspect there are, of course they're more powerful than we are. Are they out for our destruction? There is a group that believes they are, that they're out to steal our resources. I don't go in with that group, because if they have the technology to get here, they're far advanced from us. And if they wanted us wiped out, we'd already be gone. That's my theory.
You'd be gone before you even knew they were attacking. Just one EMP blast and we'd be gone. So there have been cases where the government blocks off portions of national forest, and that's why I bring that up. In 1980, when Mount St. Helens blew up, the National Guard was said to have gone in and taken out bodies and 2 living Bigfoot and taken to Fort Lewis. Some possible ideas as far as the secrecy. I mean, think about it. If all of a sudden they said Bigfoot's real, your logging industry might get harmed. The economy might get harmed. You're going to have some people terrified. Other ones are going to rush to the national forest, litter it, destroy it, all looking for Bigfoot.
Well,
that would be my concern.
But I think that the big thing with humans is that we all believe that we're the only intelligent species. And if we were to say that there is another intelligent species among us that thinks, that can make tools, that can use weapons, that can do all these things, that it would terrify a lot of people not being that center of the world anymore.
Recent history subjected.
True.
I believe we can call ourselves intelligent.
Half the world can't get past pigmentation. That some of us has a little more, some of us has a little less, and that's nothing. Imagine if there's this intelligent creature. They might be threatened by Bigfoot. I could see where that's possible. I think it's stupid because they clearly mean us no harm. They just want to be left alone. But people are weird. They get fearful over strange things.
And Joe says, if the spotted owl destroyed the logging industry in Oregon, think of what Bigfoot would do here.
Except for it hasn't caused any problems with our logging industry as it is, and Bigfoot is protected in Washington State. I mean, Idaho does just fine in logging. There's so much wilderness in most of the areas where Bigfoot is most frequently spotted, and lots of protected wilderness as it is. I don't see why we couldn't coexist. I mean, set aside places that we don't log. We already have those.
Right.
I mean, if Bigfoot's smart, he's going to move. It's that simple.
Okay, so do you think some of the movies and cartoons out there, such as my favorite, Rise of the Guardians, Smallfoot, Casper, do you think those are to make... do you think they're just made in fun, or do you think they're made to kind of pave the way for kids to accept paranormal? What's your thoughts on that?
I think kids accept paranormal. I think they're taught not to.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know? And just like they say, kids are super sensitive to the paranormal. That they'll receive an information from a ghostly visitor far quicker and with less suspicion than an adult will, because they haven't been taught yet that this is scary or this is bad or this is horrifying. We teach them to be afraid of those things. That's part of why I write the books that I do. Why be afraid? I mean, be afraid of the crack dealer on your corner. Don't be afraid of a ghost, because there are tools, and here are the tools, and this is what they say you can do. So I don't have a problem with that. I think kids, maybe those movies. I mean, Rise of the Guardians is one of my favorite all-time movies.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just phenomenal, and I know the guy that wrote it, so it's pretty great. But I think what they do is reflect the belief systems that kids are born with.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what children's writers tend to support. They tend to understand that. And then we grow out of it as we get older. Now, if we're lucky, some of us old people retain that natural wonder and that inquisitive idea that there are more things out there than what we know. And I can't imagine living a life without the recognition that there's a lot out there we don't understand, a lot yet to be discovered. So kids naturally feel that way. So they love those movies because it reflects what they already believe. And maybe grown-ups love them for a minute because it takes them back to where they were. But wouldn't it be nice if we could go back there as adults?
I get stuck with some of them because we'll have to watch them like 100 times because kids like them. But but that's okay.
It could be worse. I had to watch Little Mermaid 1,000,000 times, and that's not anywhere near as great.
Oh, good God. No.
Oh, God. The Bee Movie. My kids, I don't know what it was about that movie, but they watched it on repeat for days.
I don't think terrible. I got stuck with that one.
Jerry Seinfeld as an animated bee. Now, there you have it.
Right?
So what about the Boogeyman? You know, because you have the positive movies that are great, and then you've got the other ones that scare kids. You know, Monsters Inc. No, Monsters Inc. wasn't scary, but you've got where did the Boogeyman come from?
Well, I think the Boogeyman. I mean, a lot of native cultures called Bigfoot the Boogeyman. True. But here's what I think it is. Remember how my dad told me not to climb that tree, and I did anyway?
Right.
I think when we were wild children, and I was one of those wild children, when I was a kid, there were no fears of being abducted. They make up things to keep you close to home. So the Native Americans say, man, little Jim, I can't get him to come home before dark. I'm going to tell him there's a Boogeyman.
No, that's Krampus.
That's
Krampus.
But some of them are made up to control kids, to make them fearful, so they mind their manners. I don't necessarily think there is a boogeyman. I think there are evil things, there are evil people, and bad things happen.
Right.
So I think that, like Rise of the Guardians, the boogeyman was representative of, if you give in to your fears, then you'll be paralyzed. So don't give in. Don't give him the power over that. The same thing, I was afraid of the dark forever until one night I had to go walk around my backyard in the dark. And then I thought, why was I afraid all these years? Why didn't I do this when I was 18? And then I would have had a whole lot more years with a whole lot less fear. So I think we use fear as a means of controlling people. That's true in the government. That's true in school. That's true in Native American cultures that didn't want their kids traveling too far. But most of the Bigfoot stories were a tender, spiritual big brother.
So is there anything that you're working on right now? Like any new concepts, any new books?
I just finished, the new book was called Cryptid Creatures, a Field Guide. And I had written a book in 2006 called Tales of the Cryptids. And it was the one where I thought I was going to prove Bigfoot was fake, and I was mind blown. And the kids loved it. I mean, I've probably sold 150,000 copies of that book. It's just been, and it's still selling all these years later. What is that? 14 years later, 15 years later. But the kids kept saying it's a baby book because it's a picture book. It's a big format, and it's about 72 pages. And it looks like a little kid's book. So they said, why don't you write one for us? Meaning 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 15-year-olds. So I went back and I wrote Cryptid Creatures, a Field Guide. And it's 50 different cryptids, and I'm looking right now, 215 pages.
Wow.
So it's way more content. It's eyewitness reports that I got from reliable sources, newspapers, magazines. And it's just the evidence that's been presented of 50 different cryptids. And that was super fun to create. And it's just more content for the kids that love Tales of the Cryptids but want more. Well, I gave them more.
So which cryptids do you cover? Do you cover Dogman and Lycans and Wolfman and Goatman and...
Wolfman and Goatman are in Cryptid Creatures. What I have to do, there's so many that you can't... I mean, no publisher is going to let you write a book about all of them, not unless you do it yourself. Right. Which I would love to do. I would love to do the encyclopedia of cryptids. That would be fantastic. Although I think Lauren Coleman has already done that. He's a friend, so thank you, Lauren. Well done. But yeah, I have Goatman in there. Do I think Goatman's real? Maybe not. Maybe Goatman's too much party punch. Maybe. But now the kids are convinced he's real.
With Goatman, we've only had one situation here. I don't hear a whole lot about Goatman. We had one Goatman case in Whidbey Island. But we didn't have to do anything with that one, and there wasn't any real evidence. It was just a client history, basically.
Well, I tell kids that your imagination is a remarkable thing, and if you see something you don't understand, your imagination will fill in the details so that it can be understood. So what you think you saw and what you did see are not always the same. Mm-hmm. That's why eyewitnesses and crime reporting are not always reliable, because they thought they saw this happen when really it was the guy next to him who did it. Your mind fills things in. So I help kids to understand that sometimes you think you saw something, you're convinced you saw something. I thought there was an octopus in my room when I was 7, and the next morning I realized it was my sweatshirt, which was really embarrassing. But our minds fill things in. So that's, but sometimes things are cited that just can't be explained. Like the Phoenix lights.
Oh, yeah.
When the light appeared over Phoenix, Arizona, and thousands of people, including the governor of the state, saw it and said, yes, that was an extraterrestrial experience. That was a UFO.
Oh,
and 517 was a pilot. He knew aircraft. Yeah.
And you
sometimes you see what
you have UFO reports in Spokane all the time.
Yeah.
Because we track UFO reports here, and just here in the Upriver Skagit County community, we have them
Tons.
At least weekly.
Tons. Yeah.
So, I believe it. That's because we don't have as much light pollution.
Right. And you guys have Newfort, because you have the National UFO Reporting Center in Davenport, Washington. On your side of the mountains. And Peter Davenport's great with his reports. So
Definitely one of the icons, especially in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
So, and I went down to Stephenville to investigate in Texas for my book, because there was just a slew of UFO sightings. When I got there, nothing. But it was, it's still, you can interview the people that had the experiences. Mm-hmm. So,
absolutely.
I would love to see a UFO. I used to be scared of them. In fact, I went to the MUFON convention in Denver, Colorado one year to get permission to interview the experts later after the convention. And they said, well, if you're going to be abducted, it's probably going to happen after 4 o'clock in the morning. Well, my dog liked to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to pee. So every time I had to let her out, I was like, oh. I was just so scared after the convention, because it was like, 12 hours a day, three whole days of nothing but UFO and alien stuff. And I was like, oh God, they're going to take me. And then I convinced myself that they wouldn't take me because I'm old. They would take someone younger so they could harvest the eggs. That's how I finally got some sleep again.
Yep. I don't know where that one came from. So abductions happen at all hours of the day, not at 4 o'clock in the morning. I know they do,
but this is what they said most likely. And then I've decided, the kids kept asking me, what happens if a Bigfoot kills you?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, wow, what a cool way to die.
Right.
We all die. And if I die because a Bigfoot kills me, that's super cool, although I don't think that will happen. But if I get abducted by an alien, how cool is that? I get to see a spaceship before I go. So, I think that goes with being a little older. You start to think, you're not as panicky about life, because I've lived a lot of life. Like, I had to give up sugar and carbs this year, and I thought, I had them for 62 years. Now, I miss chocolate, but it's, life takes on a different hue as you get a bit older. So I think, well, I'm gonna kick the bucket someday. I might as well do it in a cool way.
Right.
Not that I want to die, but I don't think aliens want to kill me, and I don't think Bigfoot wants to kill me.
But honestly, I find it surprising kids would even ask that, and you can safely tell kids that, and I've told my kids, Bigfoot's not going to kill a kid. You've got too many cases where Bigfoot's actually picked up lost kids and taken them back to camp.
Exactly. Have you found any credible evidence that anybody's ever been hurt by a Bigfoot? I haven't. I've heard the 2 stories everybody talks about, but I couldn't find the people.
I have heard violent cases where they were chased. I've heard, you look at, so I'm sure you're familiar with David Paulides' work, Missing 401. My personal theory with those is it is portals that people are missing in. I do think maybe 1 or 2 cases might be Bigfoot. They are very territorial. Personally, as far as evidence goes, I've heard Bigfoot knocks, and I've had them actually knock back when I responded to them. So there is intelligent design there.
Here's my thing. I think if a Bigfoot ever killed a person, there's probably a family member involved. So let's say you're hiking and you're on the trail of this Bigfoot, and the Bigfoot has a kid with it. Any species will kill for its offspring.
Oh, absolutely.
Any species. So I think
I would also look at it as every species. There's always 1 or 2 that have issues with that.
Yeah, even dolphins. They're killer dolphins, believe it or not.
Right.
Yeah. I think you're right. But I don't think it's the norm. I don't think Sasquatch, Bigfoot, I don't think they're looking for trouble. I mean, they're not looting the stores. I think they're just saying, leave us alone. Right. And the kids are saying, what's that weird thing in the woods? I want to go see what that human is. And Mom's saying, don't you dare.
So, how did you decide on an illustrator for your book? I mean, obviously, you wanted to go with something that wasn't super cartoony, but,
one of my first books, I've written 6 dinosaur books. I happen to love dinosaurs. I just do. And I met a guy who works at a natural history museum, and he was a graphic design degree in college, and he illustrated my first dinosaur book for free just because he wanted to do it, which was super nice. And he's really good at taking unknown animals. Like, we don't really know what dinosaurs looked like. We can estimate based on their skeletal structure and the impression fossils that we've found. But he makes the dinosaurs look as if they're living animals. And so when I started doing Tales of the Cryptids, I said, do you want to do Tales of the Cryptids with me? I'll pitch my editor. And he said, oh, yeah, I'd love to draw those. And he did the best job on imbuing these creatures that may or may not be real with reality. They looked approachable because they were relatively cartoonish, but they also looked like they could be real. Mm-hmm. And if I hire somebody to illustrate my books that makes fun of them, then I've lost my kids. The kids are saying it's just one more adult that doesn't understand how much I love this.
Right. I was looking through your books, and I was actually quite amazed by the illustrations. That's why I was, hey.
His name is Rick Spears, and he's just incredibly talented. And that's why I love him. So every time I have a book like this, I ask my editor, can we hire Rick? Because A, the kids love him. B, I love what he does. And C, he's really good. And it's hard to find somebody you can trust to take the subject seriously, to really reproduce the drawings as if they could be real. Mm-hmm. That's important to the kids. It's important to us, too.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go to our first break. So we will be back in the second hour with Kelly Milner Halls. Here is Poltergeist by Cryptamnesia.
You are listening to S4 on Spreaker.com.
They say I'm evil, they say I'm dead inside. Check out my ego, 'cause I'm rotted here tonight. Just burn me like a witch and watch as I catch fire. But I cannot die, I am your poltergeist. I dare you to try it. You keep trying to kill me, but I cannot die. You try to ignore me, but I haunt you deep inside. You keep trying to kill me, but I cannot die. You try to ignore me, but I haunt you deep inside. They say I'm evil, they say I'm dead inside. Check out my ego, 'cause I'm wanting here tonight. Just burn me like a witch, and watch as I catch fire, but I cannot die. I am your poltergeist. Poltergeist, poltergeist. Oh, poltergeist, poltergeist. Poltergeist, poltergeist. Oh, you're caving in, the loss of sleep keeps you obsessing on your pride, but in the end you let me in. They say I'm evil, they say I'm dead inside. Check out my ego, 'cause I'm wanted here tonight. Just burn me like a witch, and watch as I catch fire, but I cannot die. I am your motherfucker. They say I'm evil, they say I'm dead inside. Check out my ego, 'cause I brought it here tonight. Just burn me like a witch, and watch as I catch fire, but I cannot die. I am your poltergeist. Poltergeist, poltergeist. Poltergeist, poltergeist. Oh, poltergeist, poltergeist. Poltergeist, poltergeist.
Welcome back to S4 with your host, Eric Cooper.
And welcome back to S4. Tonight we have Kelly Milner Halls, and we'll get right back into it.
Milner.
Halls.
That'll work.
Way to butcher people's
Okay,
names, Eric.
I know it.
I'll take Minion. Minion works.
All right. So, how often do you get out investigating? I know you said you went to a house in San Diego, but is there any other areas that you would like to investigate?
You know, I also got to go to something outside of Kansas City, and it's the Oddfellows home that's now a winery,
Okay.
and it's heavily paranormal. It was fascinating. I was at an elementary school in the daytime, and they said, you got to talk to Coach. So I said, hey, Coach, they tell me I got to talk to you. And he says, you got to go out to the Oddfellows home, and it's Liberty, Missouri is the name of the town. And I said, okay, why do I need to go there? And he said, well, I'll tell you what, I'm a handyman out there when I'm not coaching. And I got my son a job because he was between semesters in college, and he had to show up early in the morning. And everybody says that it's haunted, and it is. It's heavily haunted. And he said, so my kid showed up, and he was like 19. He was not a baby. He showed up, and he's cleaning the windows. And this is a huge compound, many, many buildings. The winery, the one that they're refurbishing right now is the huge orphanage. It was an orphanage for little kids at the time in the day. But now it's a winery, and they do weddings there and all that stuff. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. So he's doing the windows in that building and a couple of other buildings, and he runs out of paper towels. So he sets his squirt bottle of cleaner down, and he goes to the next building to get some more paper towels. And when he comes back, the cleaner's gone. He can't find it anywhere. So he calls up his dad and says, okay, Dad, I know you're here. Where's my cleaner? You hit it. And his dad said, kid, you've got the morning shift. I won't be there for another half hour. So he says, okay. And he goes, and everybody else there, and he says, "Where's my cleaner?" And they say, "We didn't touch your cleaner." And he thinks they're ripping me. I'm the new guy. So he finally says, "Okay, I'm just going to get more cleaner." And he grabs another bottle of cleaner, and he goes back into the building. And about some reason, he decides to look up, and there, hanging from the chandelier, is his bottle of cleaning fluid. And he wouldn't go back. He said, "This place is haunted. They put my cleaning bottle up on the chandelier. And no one else was working, no one else was there." And there are stories and stories and stories. All of the paranormal TV shows have done this winery, this Oddfellows home. And it was Oddfellows were a charitable organization that helped people that were impoverished. So if you're an old person, there was an old person home that you could live in. There was a hospital. There was an orphanage. They just kind of helped people that were down and out. But they didn't have a lot of money to help them, and a lot of people died. There's even a cemetery right there on the premises. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of energy there from a lot of people that had rough lives. And I think it's fruitful when it comes to paranormal. That was a great thing to go and investigate.
Right. So, with your paranormal investigations you do, what's your favorite piece of equipment?
I like EVPs. Because I was not a believer. I kept thinking, this is nonsense. They would tell me, "Oh, the ghost just said this," and I heard nothing of the kind. So for the longest time, I thought that was nonsense. But once you realize that some of them are real, then you start to think, this is remarkable. And it makes sense, because if you're, let's say, because I tell the kids, you have this electric current running through your body, but when you die, the current disappears. So where did it go? Energy never dies.
Right.
It just reforms into something else. So could it be that electricity is essentially your ghost? You still have all your memories, your personality. You're still you. You're just a wisp of electricity. If all you have is that, you're going to use electronics to communicate. You're going to use flickering lights. You're going to use an EVP, a tape recorder. You're going to use everything you can to use the tiny bit of energy that you can harness to communicate with the people you want to talk to. And maybe you can drain energy out of camera batteries or flashlights or whatever. That makes sense to me. Maybe they do hang around water because water conducts electricity so well. But it makes sense to me that if you're essentially an electrical being, a bit of energy, that you might use energy to convey your ideas, to get communications across. So I like EVPs because I like the idea that even if we can't hear them with our human ears, that they do get picked up on that digital tape recorder. I think it shows a lot of promise. But I'm hugely fascinated and not even remotely scared, because I've never had any negative ghostly experiences. Mm-hmm. And the experts that I talked to the Long Island medium. I talked to another medium who used to work for the law enforcement in Arizona. And they said, if you don't want the negative energies, the negative people in ghostly form to bother you. Now, I'm not talking about serious poltergeist. I'm not sure. I'm on the fence about those. Mm-hmm. But it's one of them, Alison Dubois was her name, and she said, if you were cranky when you were alive, you're going to be cranky when you're dead. You're still the same guy.
Absolutely.
And she said, there was a time when I was at an old cowboy hotel out west, and she said, and I felt a stabbing pain between my shoulders, and I looked up, and here's this guy dressed in cowboy garb, and she says, dude, what's with stabbing me between the shoulders? And he said, well, I wanted to get your attention. And she said, there are better ways. And he said, you're right. And then she helped him and talked to him and gave him the attention he wanted. She says, they never want to hurt you. They just want your attention. So if somebody pulls some stuff on you, you call them on it. Don't do that. The Long Island medium says you can tell your dead loved ones, this spirit is bothering me. They're being negative. They're making me afraid. And that your deceased loved ones can block him, can say, not my person. Now, I don't know if those things are true, but I know they make sense to me, and I know that they help kids to deal with the fear. Because there are kids out there that are having serious ghostly experiences. and their parents roll their eyes and say, "Oh, you have the most vivid imagination," when maybe they really are sensitive. Maybe they really are having experiences. And they don't need someone to make them feel stupid. They need someone to help them.
And
so if I write that the Long Island medium says, if you have a mean ghost who's bothering you, you can ask your dead grandma, can you make this mean ghost leave me alone? And it will work. Now, will it work? I don't know. But will it comfort a kid? Absolutely.
Right.
Give them some tools.
And I think that's the thing. One of the things that irritates me the most is because we've handled thousands of cases, and I can't tell you how many times where you have to tell parents you need to listen to the kids, because it's not always overactive imagination.
Well, even if it is, what if it is their imagination? It means there's a stress level in their life that needs attended to. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're imagining dead people in your room and it's not really happening, something is happening.
Right.
There's something bothering that kid, and they need their parents to sit down and talk it out with them. Or at least to say, listen, I don't think you're nuts, and I'm here for you. They don't need somebody saying, oh, that's so stupid, go back to bed. Like they go to bed terrified. They go to bed without that problem being addressed.
Right.
And that's never a healthy way to parent.
Absolutely. Okay.
And they might be serious. It happens.
So, is there anything that does terrify you? So, when you're thinking about paranormal, is there anything that you don't want to happen? I mean, alien abduction, malevolent entities.
I don't want to believe demons are real, and I'm not sure that I do. Mm-hmm. But I'm not sure I believe in the premise of hell, which would influence whether or not I believe in demons. So you kind of have to buy the whole package if you believe in demons. I like what Alison Dubois said to me, that if you're a jerk in life, you're going to be a jerk when you're dead, but they can't really hurt you. I'm not sure a wisp of energy can throw a TV across the room to try and kill you. I mean, they can barely make the EVP. They can barely, flash a flashlight. So I'm not sure that I believe that, and I've never actually found someone that I could interview that I felt was a credible witness that said that. I think sometimes I don't disbelieve that they believe it.
Right.
But I think with very little knowledge that there may be something more to the story. Mm-hmm. Now, if I ever meet somebody that can say, no, come into my house and you'll see that things fly off the shelves, and I see it with my own eyes, then I will have to believe that. And I've seen some videos that look pretty convincing, but I also know Photoshop is an amazing thing.
Okay, so when it comes to poltergeist, I'm gonna the first thing we always ask with poltergeist, and you probably already know this, but the main thing when it came to the clients was, do you have prepubescent children in your home? Because oftentimes poltergeist activity, not all of it, but most of your poltergeist activity actually comes from kids who have ungrounded energy. So
you think it's their energy that's throwing things off the walls, not the ghost?
Absolutely. There is no ghost. I mean, so sometimes you can. Sometimes there is a haunting. So just to clarify. But oftentimes it is just straight poltergeist activity. Once you teach your kids how to ground their energy, that restless energy is actually what was causing the poltergeist activity to begin with.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
So
and it's kind of an adolescent thing, isn't it? I mean, it's just like...
it varies. Again, it varies with maturity level.
Yeah.
Most of the time it starts prepubescent, and it can go up to... I'm not going to give you an age. I can't give you an age. But, most of the time your poltergeist activity, it can be caused by a spirit. But that's one of the first things you ask is, do you have a prepubescent child in the home? As far as the demons go, at the rate of 5 to 10 cases a day that we were handling for many years, we might have 2 actual demons. And it doesn't have to be... religion kind of tainted what demons are. Demons are merely an entity type, just another race. And then you throw the religion aspect into it, heaven, hell. We've had cases where. What?
I have an opinion on that, though.
What's your opinion?
You've told me that since I joined Horseman. The thing is, you guys have always been non-religious, non-denominational. Mm-hmm. All religions accepted.
Right.
But that also makes it so that the ones that are religion-based, so people who have absolute faith in their own religion, mm-hmm. aren't going to come to you.
But they did.
Some of them.
And we handle them.
But I don't... That's why I think you only had 2 per year at the most, is because a lot of them don't come to you. They go to the priest.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think if you're religious, you're going to go to your religious leader anyway. Mm-hmm. That's just the way it's done.
And that brings your next point. So, I completely agree. When it comes to spirits, how they were alive is how they are as a spirit as well. And we had many cases where the priest would come in, the priest was ineffective. The rabbi that came in, the shaman came in, whatever the religious aspect is. If that spirit was an atheist when they were alive, they're an atheist now. They're not going to be responsive to a religious leader.
Or holy water. Yeah,
right. Right.
I think you'd be more likely to have success in exorcising somebody who's a nasty spirit, mm-hmm. by trying to figure out what's really bothering them. It's kind of like that kid that's having the nightmares. Well, let's see what's wrong. That's what Alison Dubois again says. Figure out what they need. Mm-hmm. And then you can solve the problem. It's just like because they're just dead people.
Absolutely. Get to the root. You have to get to the root of the problem to figure out how to solve it.
Yeah.
Now, you have a paranormal investigators book for kids, correct?
Yeah, it's called Ghostly Evidence.
Now, do you go into the equipment? The EMF meter,
yeah.
The digital thermometer, yeah. The EVP recorder, things
yeah.
of that nature?
I did not include that big, cool net, the light net, the dots of light that you can see when a spirit blocks the light. I wasn't familiar with that particular tool at the time, and it kind of got popular right after my book was due to come out. So, but the standard things are in there.
Okay, so you have spirit boards in there as well?
What do you mean by a spirit board? Like Ouija boards?
Yeah, like Ouija boards.
No, I have the obelisk. I have dowsing rods. I have digital tape recorders. I don't have a copy of the book right handy.
Have you
most of the things, what I did is I got my San Diego contacts to give me a list mm-hmm. of the things that I should include in the book, and they gave me a list, and those are the ones that I highlighted.
Have you?
I also have a section on how to fake ghost in your pictures.
Oh, seriously?
I have a photographer friend who's a believer. She believes ghosts are real, but she also believes there's a lot of nonsense on the internet. She wanted to show kids how it's done.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever hit on the topic of Ouija boards with kids?
I have opinions about Ouija boards. I don't think they're dangerous. I think they're kids' games. Mm-hmm. I think they're only dangerous if they get out of control or if they use them for purposes that are nefarious. But there are a lot of people that won't have them within a mile of their houses.
Right.
I mean, there are lots of believers that believe Ouija boards are escort negative energy into your house. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, I happen to believe that I have control over what energy's in my house, and that whether I have a Ouija board or not, I can say, not going to fly with me. When I was researching the book, I played video games, and I had my Xbox up on the shelf. Mm-hmm. And I'm researching the ghosts and doing all this reading up and talking to all these people and going all these places. And having all these conversations with my daughter about ghosts. And right about this time, my Xbox starts turning on. Over and over again. Just turning on out of nowhere. And I finally said, I wonder if that's a ghost. And my daughter Vanessa said, well, let's talk to it. And I said, hey, listen, I don't know if there's a ghost who's turning on that Xbox or not. Maybe it is. If it's a ghost, I hear you. I see you. But you're going to break my Xbox. You're going to red ring my box. And I don't want you to kill my Xbox. So can you please stop?
Right.
And it stopped. But it had been going on for weeks. But the minute I had the conversation and said, listen, I get you, I see you, I acknowledge you, but please don't break my Xbox. I like video games. It stopped. Now, was it a coincidence? Maybe. But why did it start and then stop when I asked it to stop? It's pretty weird. Another thing happened. We were watching an episode of Ghost Hunters. And it was an episode where someone had been scratched by a ghost. Mm-hmm. And I said, there's one thing about these scratched up episodes. They never say whether or not it hurts. I can see them. I see the red marks. I believe them. But does it hurt, or is it an electrical mark? And I kid you not, I looked down at my daughter's pinky finger, and I watched a red mark appear around her pinky finger. Out of nowhere.
Did it hurt?
And I said to her, does that hurt? And she says, no. And I said, it didn't hurt. She says, no, I have no idea why that happened. And do you know that thing faded right then? I think the ghost was telling me that they don't always hurt, that they're just trying to communicate. Now, is that always true? Maybe not. Maybe sometimes they really hurt like the devil. Mm-hmm. I don't know. But I can tell you it didn't hurt my daughter's finger. And I can tell you, little things like that start to stack up and stack up and stack up. And before you know it, you're pretty convinced that there is another world. There is life after death. Is it heaven? I don't know. I hope so. I hope all my animals are there. But I know that my mom's still around, and I know she talks to me. And that's not a bad thing. If my grandma and my mom can say, hey, Kel, how you doing? That's kind of a great thing.
Now, have you ever gone into animal spirits?
Yes. I did some research. First for an article for the Chicago Tribune. And then I was thinking about doing a book, but there's already a pretty good book. I think the guy's name was Stuckey. And the most common animal ghosts, and I think this is reflective of the strength of the relationship between the person and the animal.
Right.
Are dogs, cats, birds, and horses.
Huh.
And that's because the bond that the person makes with the animal is really strong in all those cases. Super strong. And so that's the most frequently reported spiritual entities in terms of the animal kingdom. And that makes sense to me. There may be others that you just don't notice. But I know a lot of people that, cats seem to be especially receptive.
And I completely agree, cats and dogs. I've never heard of birds. Tell me about the birds.
Yeah, birds. But when you think about it, those birds like big parakeets, not parakeets, but those big parrots, mm-hmm. They're very intelligent. And they bond so completely with their owners that, they tend to live 40, 50 years. They have a long life. And if their owner dies before they do, they often die shortly thereafter because they just can't stand not being with their owner. Mm-hmm. It takes a really good adoptive parent to comfort one of those intelligent birds. So that makes sense to me, although I'm not sure how they would represent themselves, how they would make themselves known. But I've never owned a big bird, so maybe if I had one, maybe they have a little nibbling or a little sound they make of affection. I know they fluff their feathers. That would be hard to ghostly
I would
replicate.
say, and I agree, I would say the squawking noise, I would say maybe flying across a room. You see a ghost bird fly across a room kind of thing.
I know that right after my favorite cat died, I felt him brush against my leg.
Mm-hmm.
And that was very comforting to know that he was still around. So that's, I think, common. Seeing them and then they disappear, that's common.
Now, have you ever done a book, or have you thought about doing a book on fairies?
I have. I would like to do a book on fairies. I'd like to do a book on all the sea monsters, the aquatic monsters, just them, because I think there's so much information about them. If I did fairies, it would probably be the history of fairies, because it's very difficult to find any credible evidence about fairies.
Oh, no,
but,
no. I think you ought to
No, good. This is an avenue I should explore, you're telling me.
You need to
Most definitely.
You need to do a field guide on the Fae folk.
Oh, I would love to do it. Okay, now you're going to inspire my next book. Tell me why.
Sweet. So you can send the royalties to... No, I'm just...
Oh, the Fae...
No.
And Izzy's going to kick me when I get home, but yeah, no, she loves fairies. But
Yeah, those are her best friends.
not really. But, you know...
Because I heard the fairy stories, they're kind of mean and mischievous.
It depends. Some of them are protective, and that is the cause for a lot of paranormal activity. We've had at least 3 or 4 different cases where we've had some Fae type that will cause harm. They'll cause scratches. They'll cause bumps. And we had another case here in Washington where they had a fairy altar, but they didn't leave anything for the Fae, and they had all kinds of havoc in their home.
Well, you get what you pay for, right?
Exactly.
And you have reports from these people.
Say again?
You have reports from these people.
Oh, we've done investigations of many cases of Fae activity.
Mm-hmm. I feel a new book coming on.
You've got gnomes, you've got trolls, you've got nymphs, you've got the elementals, you've got water sprites, you've got garden fairies, you've got a book.
And definitely, if you're going into any of the folklore of Fae, Ireland is the place to look.
Right. Yeah, I've read a little bit about the folklore, but I always figured it was just like unicorns.
What? You don't believe in unicorns either?
Oh, how I love you. I want a Pegasus so bad I could scream. I love this idea, though. I'm serious. I'll email you.
Okay. Perfect.
That's fine. We can help you with Fae lore.
For sure.
That would be a great book, wouldn't it?
It would, because a lot of the mountain creatures that you hear about are related to Fae activity. So let's see here.
See, now I want to interview you.
Oh, that's fine.
That's not why you have me here.
So, what's the reception been like from parents? And do you get topic ideas from kids and parents? And what are some of the topic ideas you get from them?
Oh, usually kids are funny because they'll say, "Why don't you write a book about pigs?" Or you should write a book about fairies, or you should write a book about, pandas. Their focus is a little narrow. They pick a favorite and they want a book about that. And right. I wanted to write a series called The Wonders of Weird, and then I wanted to write that little book on pigs, but it would be all the weird things I could discover about pigs or all the weird things I could discover about pandas. And they would just be little fun books for kids to read, but I can't find a publisher that will let me do that yet. I have not given up. But kids often say, I really want a book on this. The reason I wrote the book on Ghost, kids have been asking me for 7 years to write a book on Ghost, and I said, I can't do that because I can't prove they're real and I can't prove they're not real. There's no way I can write an honest nonfiction book about ghosts. But finally, I was talking about Bigfoot. We were they have me do writing workshops sometimes, and so I usually say, okay, I want you to write what happens when you meet a Bigfoot, and that's great fiction prompt for kids because they all have their ideas about Bigfoot. And so the kids were all sitting there writing their Bigfoot stories, and this little third grader came up to me and he said, listen, I need to talk to you. We were in the cafeteria, so we're all on cafeteria tables writing. And I said, okay, what do you want to talk about? And he said, there's this girl, this ghost, and she died in a fire in my house. And she comes and scares me at night with her melty face, and it really bothers me. And my first thought is, what brain trust decided to tell him a kid died in a fire in his house? That was the first mistake. But, oh well, it's happened. So I said, well, here's the thing. When I was a kid, I had this thing called night terrors. And I did. I had the worst nightmares. And I said, it felt so real, but it wasn't. It was really just my imagination running away with me. And he rolled his eyes and said, it's real. I said, okay, forget the night terrors. Okay, let's say it's real. If it was me, I would try to talk to her. And he says, well, what am I supposed to say? And I said, well, I would tell her, I'm really sorry you died in a fire, but you're scaring me. So can you stop? And he said, well, what if she doesn't? What if she doesn't stop? And I said, well, eventually you're going to have to get used to it. And he rolled his eyes again. I said, no, wait, listen. Because when I was a kid, I loved scaring my sister. I would wait in the dark hall until she walked down the hall, and then I'd jump out at her. And she would scream and wet her pants, and I thought it was really funny. And I said, and I did it every night. Every night I did it. And I said to him, you know when I stopped doing it? He says, no, when? And I said, when she stopped screaming. Because it wasn't fun anymore. And I said, so what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to get to the point where you're so used to this little ghost that she isn't scary to you anymore. So, and he says, well, I don't really understand. I said, what if a zombie comes to your house tonight? Are you going to be afraid? He goes, yes. I said, what about the next night? He goes, yes. And I said, me too. I said, what about the third night? I'd still be scared. I said, oh my gosh, me too. Fourth night, fifth night, sixth night. What about the 25th night? Are you still scared? Or are you thinking, doesn't this dumb zombie have anything better to do? He goes, well, yeah, I guess at 25 I'd think it was pretty dumb. And I said, you got to skip night 25. Because if she's going to keep talking to you and she's going to keep coming and she won't stop being scary, you're just going to have to get used to her. And it won't be so bad. And he said, okay, I think I can do that. And I thought, whether he really has a ghost or he's just been influenced by fictional movies or whatever the reason, this kid is scared. And this kid needs tools. And if I write a ghost book, I can give him those tools without making fun of him, without making him feel like just another grown-up who doesn't believe him. I can help those kids because I'm convinced that there's a fraction of those kids that are really having experiences. I mean, Long Island Medium had experiences as a little girl. Most people that I know of that are mediums, that are communicating with ghosts, started when they were young. Because you don't know that it's not real when you're young. And so a lot of them may be having real experiences. Why not give them a book that gives them a little bit, at least the names that they can start researching on their own. To find the information that they need. That's why I did it.
All right. Yeah, I forgot the question I was going to ask you. So, what are some of the future topics you plan on bringing up in books?
Oh, I have a book coming about the only dinosaur ever found in Washington State, which is a cousin of T-Rex. Super cool. Oregon has the toe bone of a duckbill. That's not nearly as cool as our leg bone of a T-Rex. That's pretty cool. I'm working on one about the Titanic. I just did 2 about World War II. But those are just to pay the bills. The books that you and I that we're talking about, they're the passion projects. And I'm thinking that fairy book sounded pretty good. I'm gonna ski down on that. So you know what? I did hear a story though. I went to the library before COVID-19 sent us all into quarantine, and I was doing a presentation on Bigfoot for adults, and I got the best question. This guy in the audience said, "Have you heard about Bigfoot's braiding the hair of horses. And I said, wait, what? And he said,
yes,
no, really.
In fact,
have you heard of that?
One of our listeners actually, Joe, if you're still in the chat room, actually, Joe's had Bigfoot braid his horse's tails.
Now, see, I want to find Joe because, see, I will do another Bigfoot book. It's inevitable because I love the guy. Mm-hmm. And I want that in my book because that's it makes sense to me. Every girl in the world has a braided hair her whole life. I mean, it's just something girls do. So I'm picturing this little girl, Bigfoot, braiding the horse's hair, which makes me so delighted.
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell us a little about your Kelly's Curiosities?
Kelly's Curiosities. Microsoft came to me and they said, we hear you're weird. And I said, yep, I am. And they said, want to do some weird videos? And I said, I would love to. And they said, okay, send us 20 ideas and we'll pick the 10 we like. So they picked the 10 that they liked, and I was tasked with doing the final research, writing the scripts. Then they came out to Spokane. They wanted to find a weird setting. We couldn't find any weird settings that were also quiet. And so I hyped up my living room a bit. So if you've seen any of the videos, that space behind me, that's my house. And it's even weirder now, and my office is even weirder. I like weird stuff. It's always been something that I've been enchanted by. And so I did one on a cat village in Japan. I did one on Bigfoot. I did one on dinosaur poop. I did one on... My daughter had bought a plastic surgery bust, a big metal head off eBay. And it said plastic surgery bust 1910 or something like that. And so I put that on the list. You know, what is this? And then they said, oh, we like that. We want that one. I was going, oh, my God, I don't know what this is. How am I going to... So the video is all the research I went through to find out that it wasn't a plastic surgery bust. It was a mortician's bust. Because if you get shot in the face and your wife wants an open casket funeral, the mortician has to rebuild the face.
That makes sense.
And that's what the mortician's bust is for, is her practicing with wax. And I thought, oh my God, I had no idea what that was. And so I love those kind of stories, those things that make you go, what? Anything that makes... I'm working on a book for kids on true stories about poop, which sounds really disgusting. But when you dig into it, it's super interesting. Because who knew all these things were related to that? I'm working on a book on true stories about death. All the different death rituals around the world. Like the monks in the highlands of China that can't bury their dead because the ground is too rocky. And so they feed their dead to vultures, which is pretty efficient. So I would kind of like my body to feed birds. That'd be kind of cool.
No,
but
I want to Viking death.
See, the only thing I would like really worry about feeding like my relatives to the vultures would be, you've seen where birds will get into a fight over something and drop it, right? Yeah. So what happens when you're sitting in your village and you're hanging out and your grandmother's arm like falls in front of you? It'd be a little terrifying.
I'm not sure a vulture could carry something that heavy. The most you'd probably get would be a cleaned up bone. And that would be disturbing, but you'd say, wow, where'd that bone come from? I don't think that they are capable of carrying things that heavy. They're not like jaguars. You know, they can't haul 150 pounds up a tree. So I don't think that would be a worry. I think in that ritual, they allow the relatives of the dead to watch if they want. And I think that would be disturbing. I'd just soon nobody feel like they have to watch that because it's a little brutal. But, right. I mean, you're going to feed something.
Yeah, most definitely.
I want my body to go to the body farm in Knoxville, Tennessee. Do you know what that is?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
Yes, the body farm.
Okay.
There's a bunch of different
You can donate a dead body or a Jane Doe or whatever, and they stake it out in this fenced-off forest area. And then they study how long it takes to decompose without any predation or anything. So then they know if they have these bugs, they've been dead this long.
They
it's
also
super
train
helpful.
specific, like, cadaver dogs and different things like that there as
Yeah,
well.
Exactly.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So where
So
do you
that's
see?
that.
Go ahead. So where do you see the future of the paranormal going? We have all these kids reading paranormal investigation books, which I think is great. Do you think they're the next paranormal investigators if they stick to it?
I do. I think they're watching TV, and some of the shows I think are dead on exactly the experiences that I went through when I did the investigating. I think some of them are a bit exaggerated. And the kids that are watching the exaggerations are going to be shaped and then disappointed when they don't meet a demon on every corner. But that's where there's balance. That's why there are more shows than one. They can watch that show and say, I love that guy, but I think he's exaggerating. And then they can watch this show and say, I think these guys are telling the truth. And that's the neat thing about the reach of cable television and books and internet, is that there are lots of sources that kids can use to decide how they feel about these things. And mine is just one of them. There are so many out there. But I wanted to give the kind of balance I would have wanted when I was a kid. So, but I hope they dig deep enough that they start to see, if you dig deep enough, certain things rise up to the top over and over and over again. And you start to say, this must be the person I can trust. Because his name keeps coming up over and over and over again, or her name or whatever. And I think kids, if you give them a little bit of instruction, that they start to understand that I want the best experts. I don't just want the spookiest. I want to know what's real. I love scary movies. I watch them every time. And I love them. But I want to know the difference. I slept with a giant metal cross for about 3 years. Because I was so afraid of ghosts and so afraid of vampires when I was about 10 or 11. And that's not a very good solution to fear. But knowledge is. Digging into what might be real and what isn't. And that's empowering. And I do think that's going to lead our next generation of paranormal investigators. I also think as soon as places like MIT and engineering colleges start to try to contribute to searching for evidence, I think that's going to be interesting. We had that one doctor that tried to measure the weight of the soul.
Right.
Well, his approach wasn't good. I mean, he was trying to real quick get the difference between the live body and the dead body when they had typhus and things like that. And it was
right.
But the concept was good. And so I hope eventually that science steps in and says, okay, let's do this. Let's see what we find out. What happens when people die? Is there a soul? What is that electricity that disappears and where does it go? And is that the next life entity? I think science should get mixed up in it. And I think that would be so exciting.
So do you go into the importance of historical research when you do the paranormal investigator book?
Oh, yeah. I part of the thing I like to do is I like to, in the book, I talk about famous hoaxes. And you can't go into too much detail on those because some of them are really disgusting. I mean, they hid all kinds of, quote, ghostly evidence up their dresses, and it was gross. So that I had to sort of soften. But there are a lot of people trying to make a lot of money claiming they could talk to dead people. And they did all kinds of weird stuff to prove that they were authentic, and all it did was prove they weren't. But that's a good thing to know, because if you know there are people out there trying to lie to you, then you're also skeptical and more likely to look for the things that have serious evidence, that there are serious people really trying to find the information, trying to find the truth, which is what you do. I mean, you're not stuffing the ballot box. You're going where the evidence takes you. And that's what kids need.
Absolutely. Do you go into protection?
Again, when you go into protection, apart from intellectual reasoning, then you're going right on that religious edge. And I was raised Christian kid. I mean, I have nothing against Christianity. It's a great thing, and it's a huge comfort. And I kind of think Jesus is cool. I have nothing against organized religion, but when you talk about protection, it's that big metal cross that I slept with, or it's a crucifix, or it's holy water, or it's, and I have trouble with those because I'm not sure how effective they would be, especially for a kid. If they believed it, it might be enough, because sometimes it's just the faith you have in the protective object that actually causes things to settle down. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's why religious things sometimes work, because the person having the problem has so much faith in the religious, in the holy water, for example, that they believe it's going to help it, and so it does. So I don't minimize that possibility, because faith is a powerful thing. But I don't know that any physical thing could protect you. I think it would be more an intellectual process.
Okay.
How do you feel about those?
All right. So we're
Well,
coming.
what objects do people normally use to protect themselves?
Oh. So as when we did investigations, so we just disbanded the team last year, and we handled emergency response paranormal issues for 12 years. So there's a lot of different protections you can use. Hematite, for example, is a stone you can use for grounding your energy. It's a very basic stone. As a team, we use black tourmaline. Now with Colford,
okay, so you're talking like gemology. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
you're talking like gemology. That's, to me, that's more productive.
Absolutely. So when it came to kids, I always recommended rose quartz, because rose quartz is a very calming stone, and it's very good for pulling energy from bad dreams, nightmares. So I put that under the kid's pillow, or under the bed, under the crib if it's a baby. Things of that nature. Then when you're talking herbs, you're talking rosemary. Rosemary is great for negative entities. Lavender. There's a whole lot of different areas that you can go with protection, grounding and shielding.
I like your approach because it's natural.
Exactly.
Which is part of the natural world and the supernatural world. That to me makes way more sense than a big metal cross.
Right.
Yeah.
Not saying the big metal cross doesn't work, because you did hit the nail on the head. Your faith is everything. If you believe
it works, it works. Yeah.
How much faith you have in your belief is what boils down to your protection. Energy. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. That makes sense. But I do like your approach. I do like that.
Oh yeah, and it worked. I mean, it worked for years.
I would have put that in my book if I had known you when I was writing the book. I would have included a section about herbs and stuff.
It's time for a second edition.
It is. I think you're right.
Anyway, we're down to the last 10 minutes. This is the time. So where can we find your books? Where can we find your websites? And where can we find Kelly?
Kelly lives in Spokane, Washington. You can find me on the internet any old time. My website is thewondersofweird.com. If you type in Kelly and Weird, you're likely to find me. If there's someone with no clothes on, that's not me. That's a different kind of... Totally different kind of weird.
Right.
Wondersofweird.com. That's my website. My books are available on Amazon. They're available on every independent bookstore. They're real books from real publishers. I haven't self-published anything yet, although it's always a possibility. And the libraries, they're going to open it up again very soon. And I am in most of the libraries in Washington State, so you won't even have to spend money to read my books. Free is a good price.
Now, are you in any of the kids' scholastics? Like, if I get those little papers from the school all the time, would I be able to find any of your books in there?
They have been in the past, but those are older books now. The The ghostly evidence one didn't make it in there. I think they're nervous. I mean, political considerations about ghosts and aliens and stuff. You know, it's the same reason I'll probably never win any book awards. Mm-hmm. Because the award books go to the fancy ballet star books and things like that, you know, or civil rights books, which are wonderful. I'm glad they get awards. They're important topics. But I'm not after the awards. I'm after the kids.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And so that's so it's the books that and in the quick books, like this book I'm doing on the Titanic, you might find that in the Scholastic.
Oh,
See
right
what I
on.
mean? These high interest, everybody wants them books. So Tales of the Cryptids was in there once. I wrote a book called Albino Animals, which is a great way to discuss race with kids, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. That was a Scholastic selection. So you never know. I might write something that they pick up again. I would love that. Or maybe they'll publish Wonders of Weird. I would love that too. Wow.
Now, have you gone to ebooks or audiobooks or anything like that yet?
There are a few of them. Tales of the Cryptids is available in audio and ebook for your Kindle and all that stuff. Okay. And I have 2 National Geographic books that are about animals. One's called Tiger in Trouble, and one's called Courageous Canine. And those are available in audiobooks. But they steer away from the spooky books. They steer away from my weird books. I think you can get alien investigation in an audiobook, though. I think you can.
Something about listening to aliens on audiobook. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So we are coming down to, let's go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about some unique news that's hitting the...
News channels?
Yeah.
News channels. There you go.
And we're going to talk about the fight last week.
I put him to sleep.
No worries, Kelly. Thank you very much for being on.
Yes, excellent.
Thanks for having me.
Much.
I appreciate the opportunity. It's been fun.
Oh, it's been a blast. We might be getting back to you because we might have you on Roundtable here in a couple weeks, if you want.
Oh, I'd love that. And that would be great. And I'll be getting back to you on that fairy stuff.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, when we come back, we are going to have Paranormal Fight Night. So, here is Hell Within from Cryptamnesia.
You are listening to S4 on Spreaker.com.
host, Eric Cooper.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. And to start off, we had a great time with Kelly. So thank you, Kelly Milner Halls, for joining us for the first 2 hours. If you guys are interested in her public works, you can find them on Amazon or her website, thewondersofweird.com. So, Kayla.
Yeah.
Paranormal Fight Night.
I know, okay.
In this corner, we got the Greys. In the other corner, we got the Black-Eyed Children. Who won?
So, here's what's interesting about it, though.
Okay.
Is it shows that we need to do a show on Black-Eyed Children.
Absolutely.
Because, and you know...
There's so much confusion of what they are.
But we fixed that. We're going to fix that. Because we need to do, and we have, so here on S4 we have meetings amongst us, every night almost, on ideas, what we need to change, what we need to fix, what we need to improve on. And so we are going to do kind of a description of each creature. So you have a little more idea of, okay, this one's going to win because, or this one's going to win because... But a lot of you are confused or seem to think that Black-Eyed Children are gray hybrids.
Yes.
They're not. Yes. Gray hybrids are gray hybrids. Black-Eyed Children are Black-Eyed Children. The stories with Black-Eyed Children are, they usually travel in groups of 3. I think there's been a few cases where they're traveling in more than 3. But generally speaking, they're in a group of 3. They come to your door, they knock on your door, and they ask to come in. Most people get terrified because these kids have no pupil. They have black eyes, completely filled black eyes. And they get really mad when you say no. For the ones that have said no, they shut the door. And they won't leave for a while. Mm-hmm. Now, no, to our knowledge, nobody's ever opened the door and said, "Sure, come on in, kids," and lived to tell about it. Now, Greys, they don't need to knock on the door. They're just there.
They're just coming in.
Through the window, through the wall, through the ceiling. So, honestly, if Black-Eyed Kids were gray hybrids, they would have similar traits. They would have similar abilities. So we are going to do a future show, I think, on just Black-Eyed Kids. Mm-hmm. And maybe throw in Hat Man and Shadow Creatures. Because they're all kind of the same genre creature. So...
Are they, though?
Kind of. They're a different entity type. Each one is a different entity type.
Like Shadow people... They from the description that I saw on that, they stick to the shadows. They don't approach.
Not generally. Depends on which one it is.
Yeah.
If you're talking natural creature, then yeah. If it's a spy, like we've talked about on the show before, they follow you around.
But they create fear.
The spies don't. The spies are only there to watch. The minute they get noticed, they're gone.
Okay. Black-Eyed Children, the main reason we don't have any real accounts
because they create fear.
No, because they kill. They make you disappear.
I'm pretty sure they eat them like that chicken Monsters Inc. Nom nom nom. They're just dumb.
Really, you went to nom nom nom?
I went to nom nom nom.
Okay,
Monsters Inc.
Oh, whoa, wrong show. My bad. But still, okay. So,
real quick, my answer. The Gray is going to win hand down.
What do you think, Cole?
I gotta say, the Greys are scientists. They're there to study. They're not fighters, in my opinion. I honestly think a creature that we don't know about because no one's left that's ever seen them.
Yeah.
Most of the accounts of Black-Eyed Children that I can find are from people talking to someone on a cell phone or a phone line while that creature is there and the person disappears on the phone.
And in person. And forever. Mm-hmm.
Yes, like the person just disappears during the conversation. That is the only reason we actually, like, that's the only reason I can find that we actually have
any knowledge, really.
Actual knowledge of these creatures.
Well, I mean, there's the accounts of the people that didn't let him in, saying that there was a creepy child with black eyes.
Yeah.
But in today's society, I mean, I could go down to the store and grab me some contact lenses that made my eyes look totally black.
Now,
so that's not...
I want to say 1992, I think it was either late 80s, early 90s, there was a case in Texas where the guy was in his car.
Oh, yeah.
And he pulled down an alley. He was waiting for a friend or something. I can't remember the specific details to it. But he pulled alongside the curb. These three black-eyed kids came and were knocking on his window. They asked for a ride. He said no. They started hitting his window. And he hit the gas. He looked in his mirror. They were gone. Nothing.
All right. So what I want to do here is I want to pull in a couple of the comments that we got on who would win and why they would win.
Absolutely.
I got one more.
It looks like we are going with Grays as far as this battle.
Grays won?
Yes. As far as this battle goes, and as far as the Facebook feed and our Twitter feed and everything else goes, the Grays overwhelmingly won.
Okay.
But I do also believe that again, has a lot to do with the fact that there's a lot of people that don't know much about the black-eyed children.
Nobody really does.
Right.
That's a hard one. That's really a hard one to rule.
Well, and, like...
In all fairness.
I do gotta say, though, the whole Fire in the Sky, Travis Walton.
Right.
Those were Grays. Were they not? From his description.
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
Basically, yeah.
Obviously, they didn't put up much fight against the human. What are they going to do against a black-eyed kid?
Yeah,
actually, wait a minute. Didn't they kill him and bring him back to life? So technically, that's a lot of a fight. I'm just saying.
They got technology.
I'm just saying.
Okay, wait. So the Grays have technology that the black-eyed children don't have?
All right, and that brings me to...
They can levitate them and throw them.
Are we sure about that? That's the problem. We don't know enough about black-eyed children completely.
We don't.
They might have iPads.
All right, so here's what I'm going to say here. So we got a comment in here from Dave that says the Grays would win because black-eyed kids just smack them with the shovel. Okay. All right. Okay. So that again is the technology versus the lack thereof.
Right. I get that.
Right. Let's see, what else we got? We got somebody for the black-eyed kids in here. This guy, Thomas, he says, black-eyed kids, they are paranormal and pose unfathomed charm, which Grays would find irrational and easily confounding.
Charm?
Charm. Well, you have to have a little bit of charm to get into people's houses. Honestly, if you're knocking on their door and you're asking them for something, a favor of any kind, you have to have a little bit of charm for them to open that door and say, come on in.
I've had them come here, not black-eyed kids, but they don't have charm. You got any gas? No, go the hell away. But yeah, don't. Oh, wait, that's just tweakers. Yeah.
And we got Joe in here that says, hands down, Deadpool, no matter what.
Deadpool,
so,
yeah,
Deadpool,
okay, I'm right there.
All right.
I'm right there with you, Joe. Deadpool would beat both of them.
Absolutely.
Actually, I'm more with Thor.
And we got another Joe in here that says, well, black-eyed kids are just Grays with wigs. So.
Yeah.
Joe, I think we need to have a talk.
What's Joe say?
That was Joe.
That was Joe.
Yeah. What, about Deadpool?
No, about
Grays
wigs.
with wigs.
Oh, okay.
Wigged Grays. Well, I mean, pointy stick, right? Mm-hmm. Pointy stick.
Oh, pointy sticks would be both of them. Come on now. You
right?
can throw them.
Okay, somebody comes up, knocks on your door, pointy stick. Done. I mean,
you could throw them, you could joust them, you could stab them.
Somebody material that's in your bedroom, pointy stick.
Yeah.
Done.
And they break, you sharpen it again.
And Dennis, I agree with you. The Greys are not one species, but they are numerous beings that look the same. The topic is very broad. Can go all over the place. And yeah, you're right. We could do like
a week's worth of episodes of Greys alone. Yeah, absolutely.
And then you're right, the black-eyed children are rare, and that is the hardest part about this, is we don't know enough about that race to actually...
You know what? Okay.
This one is better. I like this week's one, but...
Oh, I did too.
Yes.
So we are going to do another alien race show soon. I'm tired of Bilderbergs. I'm tired. I'm so bored with politics. I'm done.
All right, no more fights. We're not doing fights. We're doing races.
No, we're doing fights. We're doing fights.
The UFO 500.
There you go.
All right, so guys, for this week, okay, we just put up our battle for this week, and this week is going to be the legendary Thunderbird versus the legendary fire-breathing dragon.
Oh, dragons got him hands down.
Absolutely.
Dragons.
Oh, you guys.
Burnt to a KFC extra crispy.
Yeah, boy.
Okay, just saying, fire, sure. But
Go
lightning
play.
out of your eyeballs, I mean...
Yeah, but we talked about this. Dragons don't drink water. They drink lava.
I know, but see, Thunderbirds also drip water. So if they're throwing water on them and then electrocuting them, I mean, I'm pretty sure that lizard
This
is
isn't
fried.
a Pokemon creature. Don't even.
It is just Thunderbird. See, you got one Thunderbird on your side. We're all for the dragons. You're just mad because you. Yeah.
Hey, birds eat reptiles. Just saying. Just saying.
Birds are reptiles.
So.
Oh,
hey,
going back to the dinosaurs. Speaking of dinosaurs, what is that going on with those dinosaurs?
So,
what?
the actual original trilogy of Jurassic Park was based off a true scientist that was trying to recreate dinosaur DNA.
Wait. Go back. Real quick. So, what is it? Thumbs up for...
Thumbs up for the dragon and a heart for the Thunderbird.
Okay, there you go. So you can either, I believe you can go vote in the website.
Yes, yep. Website. We can also vote on Forest Moon Paranormal. We can also vote on the S4. Those are both
Twitter.
Facebook pages.
On Twitter, we have it's a poll on Twitter.
Excellent, excellent.
And they're all up already.
Yep.
Other than the website one, I don't think.
Okay, moving on to news. I know Cole's getting on to dinosaurs because we have a guy that did.
I'm excited about this freaky dude.
Yeah, we're not.
So those movies were based on an actual scientist who was trying to recreate dinosaur DNA.
We didn't learn.
And apparently he is one step closer now.
We didn't learn.
They offered up, and he was able to do a small experiment at CERN, and he has been able to...
CERN? Really?
Okay, but seriously...
He has been able to actually, in part, theoretically, figure out how to de-evolve a chicken.
So July is going to be... So, wait for it. So we had coronavirus February, March, April.
Murder hornets in May.
Murder hornets in May. Riots in May. Now we're coming into June, July. We're going to see dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs on the streets?
It is Jumanji. Oh my God.
Not on the streets. It was like the third movie before the dinosaurs hit the streets.
Yeah, but
I'm
this
sorry.
is the
Just
first
in
one.
wooded
It takes
areas.
time,
so where
guys.
we live. Okay? They'll be on our streets. You'll be like, oh, look, there's a dinosaur in Cape Horn again.
Well, yeah, I've contacted the guy. We're going to be getting one of the first ones. So
No, Dennis. The aliens are coming in August. It's going to be dinosaurs first. And then the aliens are going to be here August, September. That's when the aliens will be here. And they're nervous, according to that one cartoon.
Okay, so I'm sorry, but how do you do this? How do you just hey, I'm a scientist. Can you let me de-evolve a chicken, please? Like, how do you get to the point where you can go in there and stick a freaking chicken into CERN and de-evolve it into
I believe the only requirement for CERN is to actually have a scientific method that you are certain on, of the method itself, not of what the results will be. Mm-hmm. And wait your turn.
Dude, I am going to CERN. I'm going to figure out something to put up there.
Yeah, so CERN is open to a whole lot. We actually did a show on CERN. We did a lot of research on CERN a couple of years ago, actually, now, on S4. And so they are open to universities, scientists. All they have to do is get their name on a calendar, basically, and say we're doing this, and go in and do it. Mm-hmm. So it's open to MIT, Harvard, any of them can do it. So yeah, all you have to do is say, "Oh, I'm going to create the first dinosaur, and I've got this chicken. I want to." He's in. I'm sure a whole bunch of them are going, "Oh, really? Oh, wow! T-Rex going through Los Angeles? All right, let's do it." And yeah, there you go.
All right, cool. I'm getting on that waiting list.
No.
Oh yeah.
To do what? What are you going to do?
Oh, you'll see. Jumanji level 2 or 22.
The land sharks.
Whatever.
She's going to create the land shark.
Sharknado.
No. So I'm still confused. So he's going to de-evolve a chicken, create an embryo, and where's he getting the DNA for a dinosaur?
From the de-evolved chicken?
No, he was able to get the DNA off an actual fossilized bone. He was able to scrape DNA off the skin cells left. And there is skin cells left on a lot of bones and a lot of fossilized skin.
So it wasn't like the other night when we were talking about just some lump that he pulled off a bone, and it might be a virus, it could be a damn microbe.
They think it's a skin cell. They can't guarantee that.
So it might be a damn another virus.
It is a possibility. Like, you honestly don't know what it is. It's a fossilized item.
Okay, but what kind of bone was it pulled off of? Are we talking a T-Rex bone that he scraped, or are we talking a mammoth?
I don't know that. No. Well, it wouldn't be a mammoth, because he's looking at farther back.
Okay, so something in the Jurassic period. So we're going to have some form of lizard-bird hybrid happening here.
So, no, we're not going to see T-Rex. We're going to see a pterodactyl flying over the mountains of...
Oh, it's cool. The Thunderbirds will take it out.
Yeah, okay.
They'll make an alliance with the dragons, and they'll get it.
One can only hope.
Well, so there was Tyrannosaurus, there were pterosaurs, there were Stegosaurus, Allosaurus, Brachiosaurus, theropods. And so, like, there was quite a few different animals in that period.
Okay.
And most of those guys are cool. They're little veggie eaters, so the worst thing that's going to happen is, they're going to eat a couple of rainforests or two. Right?
3.
Just hopefully not humans in a mass number.
Yeah, and tropical, yeah. Yeah, okay. Well, similar to the Amazon.
And we'll never really know what it is, because that's also when Pangea split apart.
Okay, so now we're bringing back like a giant. It's going to be like a giant. Like one of those red-haired giants.
It depends on the theory you go.
Mixed with a chicken.
Oh, red-haired chicken. Okay.
It is...
It's about 20 foot tall. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It depends on what your belief is on how the dinosaurs actually died.
And most of them believe it was a meteor.
Oh, great. Now we're bringing aliens back.
No, they're coming.
That is the number one consensus. But, like, what if it wasn't a meteor? What if it was actually a UFO? What if it was an invasion? What if that's not friggin' dinosaur DNA?
Oh, it's alien DNA.
Oh, great. Now we're going to have a chicken...
Now we got
gray.
A chicken gray.
Alien chicken hybrid.
Okay, anyway you look at this, I think this is a bad idea. Just saying, that's one of those things that we can do it, but should we?
Yeah, but what perfect year than 2020?
Hey, man.
What? Yeah, okay.
There's
not going to be elections in November because there's going to be a Gickin invasion.
A Gickin? Gray chicken?
Yep. Absolutely.
Can you imagine that running down the streets? A Gickin is coming! A Gickin is coming!
And we named it right here on S4. So So what's up with the black hole thing?
I am trying to find. So we have a black hole in the Milky Way.
Ooh.
And
that's going to come after the Gickin or before the Gickin?
It's flash, illuminated gas far outside our galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
But to the point where when you looked at it with, when they looked at it through a telescope, it actually showed light on the inside for the first time.
A Stargate.
And it was multiple colors. So, like, it wasn't just one light. It was actually, like, it was a multiple outburst of color.
Huh. So a Stargate. Maybe. Or maybe what they saw was a craft coming through the black hole.
Ooh. That's an interesting theory. Craft holes.
Huh.
But wouldn't that technically be a Stargate then, too?
Well, it'd still be a Stargate, yeah.
Stargate craft hole?
But maybe they just happened to see a craft coming through it.
You know, I don't know about that, man.
But didn't you say also the Hubble telescope melted?
Not melted, it messed it up. Like, there is issues with it now that they're going to have to fix. Because when it did that flash, the computer system and it couldn't register the spectrum of color.
Right.
And it kind of shut it down for a second.
Huh.
Weird.
So Dennis says millions of years ago our black hole belched and sent waves upwards, and what we are seeing is the reflection of that burp whose light has just reached us. Huh.
Well, you know, that kind of reminds me of the
So I wonder when the spaceship gets here.
It's gonna be this year because I don't
because everything is
September.
September. Yeah, there we go. Oh man, you guys.
What?
That's why we created a space force.
Yeah.
Oh.
To go up and check out the black hole.
Okay.
Greetings from Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I don't know. It could be like a quantum tsunami. Boom.
I don't know. You know what? I'll be real simple here. I'm just waiting for the summer to get here.
Okay.
Well, I get what you're saying. So we have been trying to plan a camping trip for
ever since before this COVID,
and we actually had it set so we were going to do it this coming week.
Welcome to Toronto.
And actually, it was supposed to be last week too. Every time we start planning for the week ahead, the weather changes.
Yeah,
and we've gotten nothing but rain.
Yeah, what happened to having a super dry season?
That's what I mean. It's June, folks. It's June. About now, we're usually in some kind of a drought. We're the burn ban starts. There's all kinds of fires.
Which is why we wanted to do it now, just to make sure that we hit it before the burn ban, because there's no point in camping without a real campfire. Come on.
California has a fire.
Huh?
California has a fire.
California. Where are you at, Joe?
Anyone expecting an Amazon package from California, it might be a minute.
They're always on fire.
Their warehouse in California is on fire right now.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I don't want to
It's a 3-alarm. It's huge. Like that, the entire building is up in flames.
Am I waiting for anything on Amazon? No, I'm not. Okay, we're good.
For him. Yeah, I just saw that a few minutes ago. That the entire place is gone up in flames.
Sucks.
Yeah.
Right.
They're trying to contain it, but they're having issues. Probably because they're getting sunshine.
Yeah.
Well, we also have we have that tropical storm.
We have a tropical storm.
Yeah, it should be hitting over there in the Louisiana right about now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know what? So Dennis is talking physics. I'd like to get a physics scientist on the show, and we'll talk physics.
All right, but what kind of physics?
Quantum physics.
Quantum, theoretical. What?
Yes.
To all. Yes. Okay.
Just yes.
All right.
So also this weekend for everyone that lives in Washington, this weekend was free fishing. You didn't need a license, you didn't need nothing. So Cole and I have been out fishing. We've been concocting, like we always do, ideas, and we're going to get a boat. And we're going to take this boat out in the lakes where we can't get to unless we actually hike miles and miles, and you can't always hike out there. And we want to launch
I can't ever hike out
No, I know, that's why we need a boat. But we want to launch some drones off the boat.
Oy. Okay.
And then we can take the drones out places we normally couldn't take drones out from here, or even at the front of the lake, because there's only maybe a mile.
Right.
Depends on how expensive the drone is you get.
Yeah.
But if we go out to the far side of, say, for example, Lake Shannon, we go to the backside of Lake Shannon on the east side.
Well, for that matter, let's go to Ross. Ross is
but there's areas of the mountain that you ain't going to get to. We can take a drone in there and do some Bigfooting.
Yes, but you also got to watch your no-fly zones. Otherwise, you no longer have drone.
Oh, we're going to have drone. We're going to have drone footage.
Okay, but here's what I'm wondering, though, too. Okay, so everybody says that when there's a Bigfoot sighting, it makes the electronics malfunction. All right?
You know what, though? I think it also, because there is drone footage that people have gotten before where they have actually seen some.
So you think it has to be within a certain distance of
I think either
camera?
Maybe with a certain distance or it has to be detectable.
Okay, because see, I would be worried that we're going to go out there, we're going to spend a couple $1,000s on a drone, we're going to take it out, it'll fly over. If we do happen to catch a Bigfoot on it, well, then we're out a couple $1,000s with no footage.
That's why I say we just get an Apache. And there is no maximum distance. There is no...
Apaches are awesome.
Yeah.
Or we could just
Although I did find us a boat. It's
35
U.S.
millimeter
military
camera
has a
and
new one called the UHAC, the Ultra Heavy Lift Amphibious Connector. It's kind of half tank, half boat.
It's probably only at $2.5 million, too.
She said we could get a boat, right?
Okay, no.
Oh, not in the budget.
Let's not do that.
Okay, she said not in the budget.
It's not in the budget.
We don't... We can't get a $2.5 million boat? I'm not going to wait for the answer because I already know the answer.
That's
no.
going to be a no. That's a no, for sure.
But, so, yes, once it does start getting nicer out, we will be going out doing some Bigfooting.
Yeah.
Set up base camp, probably up in Cumberland area, along with what we're doing down here. We get a boat. Not the $2.5 million, just a $1,000 boat.
Just a couple thousand, yeah.
Well, we can get out to some of these remote areas on lakes that we can't get to otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah, there's like with Lake Shannon and Baker Lake, there's quite a few areas on those lakes that we can't access by any other means other than by boat.
And we launch drones from the middle of the boat. So, if you have a drone company, or even a boat company, and you want to be a sponsor of S4, by all means, we can always use your boat and your drones and do some Bigfooting. And you'll be the first one to get the evidence.
Oh.
Second one. We'll be the first
one.
Well,
we'll be the first
one. A boat. A boat on Lake Shannon.
Oh, that no, not fun. Just Shannon.
Sounds fun.
So, I mean, we have Baker Lake, which, yeah.
I'd love to go over to Whatcom.
Lake Whatcom?
Yep.
So tell me about Lake Whatcom.
Oh, man. I don't know. I grew up on Lake Whatcom, honestly.
So what are some of the mysteries of Lake Whatcom?
Some of the mysteries of Lake Whatcom? Man, if you think of the fact that, okay, so that entire area over there has mystery upon mystery in it. I mean, I've seen some of the weirdest stuff up Baker. Yeah.
Any Bigfoot?
Me personally, I've never seen a Bigfoot.
No, any big.
haven't.
Oh,
There's a lot of people that say that they have.
So
from
we also have a local that might be coming on the show that has had both UFO and Bigfoot encounters in the Rockport area.
Yeah.
I get excited the more I hear stories about Bigfoot UFO connections. Mm-hmm. And you always hear about the connections of them. Both activities cited in same areas, like Rockport. I've heard numerous stories in the Rockport area of Bigfoot, all the time Bigfoot. Along with of course, UFO is all up and down, upriver.
Right.
So.
Right. See, you guys can have your boat. I love the water, don't get me wrong, but I want to do some, caves. That's what I want to do. I want to get...
So here's the thing with the boat.
In some caves,
we take the boat to the far side of the lake, and we camp. We set up a base camp right there. And we teach the kids will be setting up snares, and the kids will be setting up perimeter alarms, and then we find the caves. Mm-hmm. And we run the drone into the caves.
Oh, I don't need a drone. Just a rope.
Well, but that's the thing. There are caves on the far side of Baker.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Like Baker Lake.
So, yeah.
And the boat would help with being able to get to some of those that haven't really been explored.
Yeah. And, like I've said before, anytime I think of, you've got Stehekin. So Stehekin, the only way to get there is by boat across Lake Chelan.
Right.
There's one trail that can get you in there. But, there's so many places you can access with a boat. Mm-hmm. I'm not a water person. Anyone that knows me has known I don't like water. So for me to even think about wanting to get a boat is a big stretch. Mm-hmm. But after what I saw at Shannon and the possibilities that we can accomplish with a boat on Shannon, not just fishing. I mean, the fishing was fun, but when you're talking exploration, there's some places you can only get there by boat.
See, that's what I'm saying. I would love a boat. Don't get me wrong. I am a water person through and through.
Right.
Anybody who knows me knows I love the water. But I would love to do some of those caves. I would love to see some of those caves. I'd love to go climbing in some of those caves and check out some things. The other thing I'd love to do is doing some diving. And I mean, a boat is going to make that a lot easier as well. I want to see some of that underwater.
That's all you. That's completely all you. I don't dive. I don't get in the water. So you want to dive? By all means, we'll get you certified to dive, and you can go.
Hook me up, dive. Send me out. I got this.
I got some rocks we can tie to you.
Oh,
get you one of those little dustbuster bottles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No.
Oh. Okay.
Oh.
Friend.
And we might find some dinosaur bones back in there.
Maybe some fossilized things, but I wouldn't
count on actual.
I wouldn't count on actual dinosaur bones.
No.
Mm-mm.
So the problem with that is this area was, especially the mountains, the mountainous areas, they were ground up so much that a lot of the bones that you would find, they were ground to dust.
I will tell you though, I actually, there's an interesting story. This happened quite a few years back in the Teanaway River Valley. Again, anybody who knows me, I go to the Teanaway River Valley at least once a year.
Not this year.
Not this year, no. But I've swam in the Teanaway 1.5 million times. Mm-hmm. We go agate hunting there, all kinds of stuff. So a few years back, some kids were swimming in the Teanaway River, and they were swinging off of this piece of tree that they saw coming out of the side of the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
They were swinging off of it, and they told a bunch of other friends about where this was and that they could come and check it out and everything. Well, it ended up that they were actually swinging off of a husk. Not a husk. Jeez, it's a tusk of a
woolly
mammoth.
Yep.
Yeah. So they did a whole excavation of that area, and they found a woolly mammoth and a couple of other...
We have woolly mammoth up here.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely.
Now, Dennis is saying our area is known for crystals. So this area is known for crystals, gold, red jasper.
Well, and the town of Concrete was apparently originally a diamond mine, according to Jamie, remember?
Yeah.
Yes. We are also known for mercury. That isn't as well known to most people, but we do have a ridiculous amount of mercury mines up here.
Yeah, and so that's also a theory of why Bigfoot and UFO activity might be in that specific area that we do know there's mercury mines.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, again, those are some areas that we want to explore, and we don't need a boat for that area.
Well, and there's a ruby mine near Rockport.
Is there?
Yes, there is.
I think that's what... I'm trying to remember what Jamie said. I was there for that episode.
Yeah, there is a ruby mine.
And that's what's interesting. This whole region is full of minerals. Very valuable minerals.
And I have the old miners maps. So that is something I've been compiling.
For me,
is all of the prospects and maps in different areas.
Or should be a link, no print.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely.
Because, you know, the more you hear about those kind of things, it very well could be why we have so much UFO activity up here. Mm-hmm. Same with Darrington. Mm-hmm. You know, and Bigfoot, maybe Bigfoot's a guardian of those.
Oh, and I tell you, Baker has so many sightings of so many different things.
But I think any kind of volcanic activity or any kind of volcano is a draw for UFOs anyway because of the fuel source.
Right.
I do firmly believe that one. So, and for all we know, that could be the only reason they're here.
Right.
Get fuel, go. And we see them. But I think, you know, anytime you get a large variety of minerals in one location, I mean, this is what, a 60-mile radius, roughly, probably more than that, of such a vast amount of both elements and minerals, because, you know, mercury, with the gold and whatnot, I would think it would be a draw.
Well, everything's supposed to have its own power. I mean, its own...
Right.
So, yeah.
An earth resource.
Right.
For different races that want to utilize it.
Right.
And
well, that's another reason that I think certain races are seen more in certain places than they are in others, is because some of them use, like, crystals or diamonds or...
Some of them use mercury, some of them will use the gold or whatnot.
Right.
And, you know, it's really interesting and it's exciting. The more locals you talk to, this one's got a story about this, and that one's got a story about that. Mm-hmm. You put them all together, they all tell us an even bigger picture.
Right. Well, and, you know, and lately I've noticed that people are more willing to come out and talk about their experiences now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, 10 years ago, I wouldn't have known half of the people.
5 years ago, if you would have talked about FMP up here, you would have been scoffed and laughed at. Any more in the last couple of years, there's been a lot more people that they want to tell their story.
And that's what I said. People are more open now than they've been ever about letting go of some of those stories that or some of the experiences that they've had.
Some of them want answers, too. Mm-hmm. What is Bigfoot? What is the UFO doing here? You know, and I get... Sock Mountain. We heard about Sock Mountain again. You know, is the government doing stuff up here? We don't know.
You know, okay, so I get where people would say that this or that is the government. It's all the government craft. It's all government. But when you think about the areas and the people that are seeing this, and the fact that I know a lot of people who have been in the government or have been in the military, that are used to their crafts, that know their crafts, that know their flight patterns, that know these things, that are saying, I don't think that that's military. I don't think that that's a government craft.
Think about it, too. Think about it on this regard. If there's mercury mines, if there's ruby deposits, if there's certain mineral deposits, do you really think it's just aliens that are after those? Or that are harvesting those?
No, probably not. I mean, come on. Wherever there's money, there's somebody that's willing to exploit or do whatever it is to get it. But I'm saying that there's a lot of sightings that people will push off and say, oh, well, it was government. Oh, well, it was the Army training. Oh, well, it was the Navy. It was the... And I can't say that I believe that all of those, every single one of those, is some form of government craft.
If you look at Google Maps, in some areas of the National Forest, you'll see it blacked out.
Absolutely. Yes.
And these are the areas that some of these folks are talking about. I think they're worthy of investigation in some aspects.
Oh, for sure. And I believe there is a government component, don't get me wrong. There are certain crafts that we haven't seen before, that they're testing, or that are new, and they're trying to figure out whether or not this will work for this or that or whatever. But I can't believe that all of them
not by
any means.
The craft that we're seeing that are coming from Whitehorse Mountain in Darrington, going over to Mount Baker and back and forth. Those aren't government. Those are like balls of light, orbs of light. And, these are things I want to be checking out.
Right.
So what are you researching over there?
I was just looking into, I was thinking about the whole crystals and draw to UFO, and I was wondering if there was a draw towards radiation.
A UFO draw?
From UFOs?
Yeah. I'm not actually seeing one.
I don't see why not.
I'm not seeing one, though.
You're not?
No, because, actually, one of the largest deposits of radiation, or radioactive materials in North America is Uranium City in Saskatchewan.
Okay.
The city was actually, not the city, but the mines were shut down in 1982, and it created an economic collapse, but there are no actual...
How is it? So how are the UFO reports?
Zero. There's zero up there. The thing is, there's an old wives' tale on the other side of Lake Athabasca, which is absolutely freaking huge. But there is a report that, it's an old wives' tale that they used to say, because there is an entire grove of alder trees that grew twisted.
Twisted alders?
They actually twist up.
Huh.
So, what the old wives' tale is that a UFO landed there, the alien got out, peed on a tree, and it spread.
Huh. And thus created...
That's the only story of UFOs that I can find from that area.
Well, okay, so I'm just going to throw out the theory. Well, so... nuclear power. Okay, so this is what you're talking about. You're talking about radiation. You're talking about nuclear power.
Well,
you're talking about...
I was looking into pure radiation,
natural
radiation, not fusion.
Right.
So I've never looked into whether there is a lot of UFO activity near power plants, nuclear power plants.
So usually when they go over nuclear power plants, they're going to shut them down.
Now, see, but that's where my theory here comes into effect, is that I think that we have evolved so far past nuclear power.
Yeah.
That all they see that is a threat to existence, not a
most of them
power
are using
anymore.
Geothermal energy for volcanoes. That's why you'll see a lot of craft hovering over volcanoes is pulling the geothermal energy for a fuel source. So I think you're right. I think they're well beyond radiation.
See, and I think that their only concern with radiation is the fact that it is so basic that it can cause mass destruction.
Yeah, mass destruction, mass harm to humans.
Yes.
Now, does that mean they care about humans? No, not at all. Frankly, most of the races out there don't really give a damn about humans, other than the state of the planet. So if it's something that we're going to use that's going to cause harm to the planet, they might take an interest. Especially if that something might cause enough damage to, I don't know, say the solar system or their planet, you know, then they're definitely going to take interest.
Well, if you think about the course of human evolution, from the fact that we used, fire in the beginning, and then we created this, and then we created electricity, and then we created, okay, now we're going into this whole nuclear era, right? Well, if you think about the fact that history repeats itself, well, if these races have already done this, if they've already lived through the fire, they've already lived through the electricity, they've already lived through the nuclear, then they can also see the downsides to all of these things. And why they would be a bad idea, or a good idea, or whatever it is. And I'm not saying that they're trying to shape us in one way or the other, but maybe they're trying to let us learn from their mistakes.
Now, Dennis brings up an excellent point. Exotic rocks that have value to us found more plentiful in space. Why would they come to Earth? I don't think all the elements in all the minerals on Earth are found in space. Some of them, yeah, I would agree.
I would say that they would have to be.
Well, look at, you know, I use element 116, for example. Bob Lazar was talking about in Area 51. You know, it wasn't found here; it was found in space. So I think I think there's some stuff found in space that's not here, obviously. But how do we know there's more gold in space than there is here?
Well, you know,
for example,
if you're thinking about it and you're going back to like the theory of the Big Bang, okay, well then every element that's found here is found somewhere else in this universe as well, right? Because it would have to be. So, like, if you were to blow up a person, okay, then you're gonna find blood cells. You're gonna find this. You're gonna find that all over the area that you blew that person up at, right? So, wouldn't it be the same for the universe? As if it was this mass explosion that caused all matter and all existence? Well, then all matter and all existence would be everywhere.
Maybe.
It might have evolved at a different rate.
Right. But
I would think that any element that you'd find here, you'd find somewhere else in space as well.
So Dennis's point is people need to put their biases aside, and paranormal needs to work with scientists. And I would agree with that.
No, for sure. For sure.
But I do think we're getting to a point where, you know, look at the black hole, for example. That was scientists that brought that up. I think we're getting to a point in human evolution or human consciousness, for lack of a better word, that I think science and paranormal are starting slowly to come together. Well, in some areas.
To be honest, they always kind of have. If you look at our history and you think of the most renowned scientists in the world, they were open to all possibilities. They weren't just open to the fact that this is this because it's this. They were open to there being the possibility.
Until the Catholic Church came out and called them heretics.
No, but I mean, like, if you look at history and you think of, like, you think of Hawking, you think of Einstein, you think of these big names.
Right.
Right? Well, every single one of them was open to the realm of possibility, which is what I believe made them a better scientist. Because they were open to the fact that this could be something that isn't explainable. I'm going to try to explain it, but it could be something I can't.
Possible. And Carl Sagan changed his mind about aliens. He did. You know, and that's what's interesting. He finally came out close to his death and said, be careful what you wish for, because aliens ain't all good. No, wait, that wasn't Carl Sagan. Never mind. I stand corrected. That was
I don't know.
Not Carl Sagan.
Jesus.
No.
Oh.
No, and correct my, or forgive my ignorance. The one in the wheelchair that couldn't.
Oh, Stephen Hawking.
Stephen Hawking.
Yeah, that was Stephen Hawking, not Carl Sagan. Sorry about that. Yeah.
I don't think he ever actually had an opinion.
Who? Carl Sagan?
No.
Or Stephen Hawking?
Stephen Hawking.
Well, Stephen Hawking seemed...
It seemed like his favorite thing to do was prove a theory and then disprove the same theory.
But on his deathbed, though, he came out and he honestly seemed terrified of aliens. When you break it down. Carl Sagan, if I remember right, Carl Sagan
I have to put that to almost just mild terror. Like, natural terror, because you're on your deathbed. You know you're getting close to the end. Why are you scared of anything?
Dennis saw Caleb get the Hawking quote. And yeah, if I remember right...
I know, I'm sorry.
Carl Sagan, if I remember right, was a skeptic in the beginning and did change his mind later on in life. That there was a possibility of other life on other worlds.
That was the thing I always liked about Stephen Hawking, though, is he never believed in facts. He believed in theories only.
Okay.
His mind was pliable in all directions. And you could tell him that an orange was actually yellow, and he would be like, "You might be right. I don't know. We'll look into that."
Right.
Like everything was a possibility with him.
That's because that's what he was in. He was theoretical.
Absolutely.
So his entire purpose was theory. Like,
well, no, his purpose was life.
Oh, Jesus. I mean, not... Okay.
All right, so what are we talking about next week? Next week, next week right now is kind of up in here. I guess we'll surprise you.
It'll be fun.
Yeah,
it'll be fun.
If nothing else, I'll just have like a Kayla week where I'll go like crazy on all my weird theories, and you guys can prove me wrong in every step.
But that'd be fun. I think we should do the Emerald Tablet.
One per year. We told you this.
Oh, come on.
So before we go,
that's it. I'm starting my own blog, The Mind of Kayla.
Oh, good God.
It's gonna happen.
So before we go, don't forget, go vote the Phoenix.
Oh, I thought you were getting political for a second. Like, well, wait a minute.
I'm keeping politics out.
Yeah, definitely though. Go vote on the Facebook group and on Twitter and on our website. Make sure you check out the new chat room on the website. Dennis is using it to the utmost. He's doing awesome.
Yes, he is. Yeah, make sure you go check out the new S4 store.
Oh, absolutely.
Get your mugs, get your hats. www.s-4radio.com.
Get your apron.
Get your apron. Cole's proud of that apron.
Know what?
Cole made that apron all by himself.
I would be surprised. I'm just saying. I love you to death. But fashion design... That is not your area of expertise.
He's gonna be in the backyard barbecuing with his S4 apron on.
I know he is. That's what I said. We're gonna sell one because you're gonna buy it.
Pretty soon we will have an S4 boat.
Ladies and gentlemen, please help me prove Kayla wrong. Buy as many aprons as you can.
And with that, folks, stay safe. Stay safe.
Stay safe.
2020. We have no idea what's going to happen next.
I want to again thank Kelly Milner Hall for being on the show. She did awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, and we will be seeing her again at some point on one of our roundtables.
Roundtable this month.
Absolutely.
In 2 weeks.
Ooh, 2 weeks.
Yep. Anyway, y'all have a safe week. We'll see you next Sunday. And remember, keep your eyes to the skies.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight on S4, the official voice of Forest Moon Paranormal. You can contact S4 through our website at www.s-4radio.com or on Facebook. Make sure you give us a like on our page and join the Forest Moon Paranormal Group. If you are interested in advertising, take a look at our packages and contact Cole or Eric at 1-360-999-2830. Again, thank you. And remember, keep your eyes to the sky.